All right. Mic check. A blame friendly stream. What's up? The kill streak season? Oh, for D3, yeah, it's bad. Another probably started the previews or something like that already. Or the not previews, but like the recap of the current D4 stuff. How's your food? I know you was eating. I had Zaxby's. Actually, so what's going on right now is they're installing the the new central air unit and HVAC. So I went ahead and basically just pulled the trigger on that because it was causing damage elsewhere. So that's a good $13,000 in the hole now. You're in. So that is not cool, but it needed to be done to prevent further cost. So that is where we're at. It's more than just the HVAC. It's like the whole like central air unit as well. So you're looking at the outside HVAC being replaced. Then you have the central air unit in the attic that also has to be replaced, and all the duct and stuff like that because it's like 18 years old. So yeah, so it's not just replacing just the HVAC. If that was the case, that would have been like 4-5K, somewhere around that. Probably a little more. I said yeah, and then also the 5-hour labor that also is involved. So it's a lot, unfortunately. Nah, yeah. If it was just the HVAC, it would have been considerably cheaper. But they have to replace basically much of everything because there was some leakage. Like the Freon was leaking into the duct, which was leaking onto the ceiling, which is causing like some water spots in certain spots of the house. And we were kind of wondering. I was like, wait a minute, why is there like, you know, water spots in the ceiling? Like the roof is kind of newish. Our HOA covered that like some time ago, so I don't understand. And now we know. This is over 20K, so yay California. Yeah, it's I think this is let's go to this one. With that being said, needless to say, I am like broke beyond broke beyond repair at the moment. So yeah, own ownership. Yay. Why is my thing always off? Just making sure you weren't getting taken for a ride. Oh no, I mean I do my homework. I don't just I don't have that kind of money to just be thrown around being like, oh, 13K, yeah, no problem. Why is it 13K? Don't worry about it. Here's a card, charge what you want. But yeah, it's a lot they had to do. Your own duct and internal install wouldn't cost you but about 4 or 6K. But yeah, well, yeah, I don't know how to do any of that. And I mess up anything, there's no warranties, so because me doing it myself, so it's just better not to do it that way. Probably end up causing more damage than or causing more costly repairs than if I just had the professional do it. That is not my specialty. That's where everyone gets greeted, and now I'm getting ignored every single stream. How you getting ignored, sir? I don't think I think I said hey y'all, like everybody. I think I did a general. You out of here forever. Just like yaxing the money. Yeah. It comes at the like the worst time too, because my wife and I were supposed to be like investing in this rental property. So we just took out, you know, um we just took out a loan for that. So we're kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna have to creatively make some money. Legally, that is. Creatively, legally make money. Make some money. But yes, Zaxby's was good. Zaxby was my highlight, like the highlight of the day, and probably the only highlight of the day, to be honest. Breaking Bad too, but it's starring dogs. I don't know, man. I might have to get Dashizi to do some stuff. I know he knows a guy who also knows a guy who probably knows a guy. I have us with the sub. Appreciate you, sir. Uh, thing is that once they're done, I'm just hoping that there's no like too much internal damage upstairs or up in the ceiling upstairs at it, because it was, I guess it was leaking really bad and I had no idea. Like the coil was like really rusted and frozen over. Like the coil itself was frozen. How is it that like I'm not getting AC below 80 degrees, but then yet the coil itself is frozen? Right? It's just like I don't understand any of it, like most of it, but I was just like, bruh. I'm like, that's a problem. Cold air's gotta go somewhere. Yeah. It went everywhere but where it was supposed to go, basically. What I'm mad about, honestly, is just getting a new. I got a new fan because the bearing was like messed up on the HVAC itself. It was like causing some noise or like that. Had I known that I was gonna have to replace the whole system anyways, I wouldn't have paid that like last year, like the 650 or something like that to get that repaired. But I didn't know. I never gave the heat much thought about where you are, but I've always came down during the cold months. Yeah, it's just it's it can be miserable. Like it's not necessarily like necessarily how hot it is per se. It's really the humidity that goes along with it. So it just feels miserable. It was like it's not just hot. It's just it's like miserable hot. If that makes sense. Some doofus who did my oil. Unplug your fan motor in your car. Moist hot, yeah. Actually, I don't know if my YouTube can actually see this. I'll get ready to say. Never seen Liam before.
Great to have you here, Dan. And yeah, we're really excited to dive into everything coming with the 2.3.0 PTR realm. It's going to be live from May 27th till June 3rd. We're going to be getting into everything coming with that today. However, it's been about a month since Season 8 launched, Belal's return. We've all gotten in and gotten some fantastic boss powers. So, I know we wanted to take a moment to sort of address and see where things are currently sitting in the game. So, like, Aislinn, how do you feel things have been since the start of Season 8?
We just love to talk a little bit about how has Season 8 gone. Like,
YouTube, let me know if you guys can hear or not.
Season 8 PTR, how did they go in live in Season 8? So the first thing I want to talk about with that on this topic is level pacing and activity variety. So as you guys may be aware, we slowed down leveling just a little bit in Season 8. And I'm really glad we actually ended up bringing that to PTR because it got us so much fantastic feedback from you guys, and we decided to pull back on it a bit. And now we're actually pretty happy with where the pacing of leveling is in Diablo 4 right now. With that said, it did end up highlighting a few other things with the slightly slower leveling, which was that there may not be enough activity variety while you're leveling up. And I think we saw this with Apparition Incursions in Season 8 specifically. There was this pressure, a lot of people felt pressure to, if you want to make progress in the season, you want to actually get rewarded on the seasonal track, you have to go to the Apparition Incursion event. And so a big part of what we did is we took a step back and we looked at leveling activity variety, and we also want to take a look at end game activity variety, like with layer bosses, because we also know that there's been a little bit of fatigue with like going in and fighting layer bosses over and over and over. And so with all these things said, we've had a slight philosophical, I don't want to say shift, I would say nudge, a philosophical nudge to try and push people to different content types. When you actually do go and fight a layer boss, we want it to be a big moment, a big reward moment that one could say would punch you in the face and knock your teeth out even. And the same is true for tributes in the Undercity or the Infernal Hordes. When you go and do these things, we want them to be really snappy, really punchy, give you a lot of stuff, and then you can move on to something else. And so there's always a reason to go do something else in Diablo 4 because we think that kind of activity variety is fun. And it makes each gameplay session more varied, which just kind of helps the game last longer. And you just have more fun while you're doing it.
I'm watching some Flurry repeat.
And then beyond that kind of stuff, there's also a lot of permanent on this stream. It's going to be interspersed throughout some of the seasonal content that we're actually going to be talking about because with Sins of the Haradrim comes a lot of cool permanent additions as well, which is going to be awesome. Oh, my earpiece is exploding.
It begins.
Yes.
Might be a common trend on
so ultra wide. Ultra wide feels really good, honestly.
But yeah, and finally, I just wanted to say,
I don't have it. I used to have one.
Playing Diablo 4. I know I have personally had a blast playing Season 8. I know a lot of people on the team have had a blast playing Season 8.
Give me the 4K now, though.
We're constantly just playing the game, finding what works, what doesn't, listening to what you guys are saying about it, and we're all here to make Diablo as just fucking awesome as it can possibly be. And so thank you for joining us on this journey.
My ears.
And with that, I want to pass off to you to talk about class design.
She said the F word.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk a little bit about where we see the class balance and relative balance of the different builds and classes.
Only Colin's able to do that.
Season 8
that was pretty awkward.
I think broadly speaking, class balance, at least in terms of like the spread and diversity of the meta, is in pretty good spot. Certainly compared to some of the previous seasons of Diablo 4, where we had
in a good spot.
One or two outlier builds that were just so far above what anything else or any other class could do. We don't really see that this season. We do have some Lightning Spear Sork is maybe a little bit higher than we would like, and there are some other builds at the top, and maybe Spiritborn in particular is lagging a bit behind, but broadly speaking, we're really happy with the overall diversity of builds that players are using to experience all of the content in the game. One of our main pillars for class balance is the concept of that all builds are able to complete all content, which is really that you can take any kind of build that you can think of that's kind of coherently put together, right? You find a skill that you like, you start building into it, and you can take that build and get into Torment 4. You can complete the season journey, you can fight those Torment 4 bosses, and have reasonable success doing it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the absolute fastest speed farmer in the pit with every single build, but you're able to complete all the content. That's really the bar we're trying to shoot for with a lot of our class balance, and we want to make sure that there's a wide diversity of classes and builds that can achieve that. And I think for this season in particular, we've gotten in a pretty good spot. There are a few outliers that we're still going to look to kind of close the gap on. And also, I just wanted to say that,
don't say good spot.
This
just
is
say you're
an
gonna work
ongoing
on it.
process. And one of the things that the PTR is so valuable for us testing is getting feedback on the new content that we're putting in, the new builds we're trying to enable, and make sure they are hitting that mark.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, that's the nature of live service games, right? Like, it's always iterative. We're always trying to balance things and get them to a spot where they function really well and builds feel really good, and it feels like you're not shoehorned into one. So yeah, the state of the game right now in terms of Season 8, having all those builds be available to get you through your entire season's journey is really, really nice. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be sharing some updates for the class balance later on in the presentation, specifically around the overpower stat, which has definitely been kind of dominating the meta this season and has been for a little bit.
Take a look at
We're definitely aware of that and going to look to make adjustments with the interest of promoting non-overpower builds to also compete with them.
You need to take a hammer to that.
And of course, also we also recognize that here in Season 8, a lot of the absolute top builds, those ones at the very top of the meta, are kind of the same ones that they were in Season 7, in the previous season. And we know there's some fatigue around that, where, hey, Death Trap Rogue, it's the best Rogue build again. Hey, Earthquake Barbarian, and so on.
It was only the best Rogue build
Necro are some examples of hey, it's the same class the second season. And we definitely realize that, maybe we didn't quite shake up the meta as much as we really were aiming for on Season 8. But we hope some of the big changes I'll talk about later really achieve that for Season 9 going forward.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a little bite-sized sneak peek of some of the things we'll be talking about later on the stream. But again, that's the beauty of having the PTR, right? Is it's, I think Dan said it before, like, this is our time to adjust all the knobs in the dial so that, you can test the content, give us your feedback, and then we can, make some changes before that all goes live to make sure.
I already have a headache, guys.
So yeah,
already.
So yeah, with that in mind, with the 230 PTR, for those of you that are keen and know the roadmap inside and out, you'll know that this next season's is going to deal with all things dungeons. So we have a lot of new and exciting systems and activities that are coming in Season 9 that you'll see in the 230 PTR. So Dan, what are some of the things that players can expect to get into and try out with this PTR?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to run through some of the features that you're going to see in the Season 9 PTR. First off, I'm going to talk a little bit high level, build on some of the things that they were saying before. I think when we've been looking at our seasons after X1, we've really been thinking about, what are those areas that we need to really kind of plus up, what's become stale, and one of those areas that, really felt as if it needed some love was the dungeons, specifically our Nightmare dungeons. And so we slotted that in Season 9. And that's really been the dominant theme of a lot of the features that we're going to release. Obviously, if you're familiar with the roadmap, you'll understand that this is where we're headed. But it's important that we're still trying to, even within that, promote that activity.
Nothing against the guy, but this is he is not. He shouldn't be doing this presentation
to the game. I know that's something coming out of Season 7, especially. A lot of folks had a lot of feedback on, and so we've taken some extra effort to make sure that we can, bring a lot of these changes season on season into the permanent game moving forward. So, without further ado, let's take a look at some of the features. Now, as with any PTR, I'm just going to say up front, we're not going to include any story. We're not going to include the quest line, rep track, things like that. We're really focusing on things that are more repeatable gameplay that we need a lot of feedback on. First up, Heraldric spells. So you see an image here of the UI for the Heraldric spells.
Reignited?
It's really cool.
Hydrologic powers.
It's kind of create a power system this season. I'm not going to speak too much about that. I'm actually going to let Liam speak about that after.
Please, thank you.
I go through the rest of these features.
Let the other guy
next
say something.
Up, we have Nightmare
Reskin boss powers,
updates.
yes.
And I'll get to those in a little bit. We have Heraldric Strong Rooms. Heraldric Strong Rooms are a new type of micro dungeon within any dungeon. Next up, we have Escalating Nightmares. Escalating Nightmares is a new type of dungeon progression system. And finally, we have Astaroth. So let's dig into Nightmare Affects updates just a little bit more.
I already don't care about the season theme part of it.
Talk
Tell me more about
a bit after,
Nightmare dungeon
stuff. I'm just going to hit this at a high level. I mean, the defining feature of Nightmare Dungeons are the Nightmare affixes, right? And so, we've spent a lot of time over, 8 seasons basically saying, oh, well, people don't like this one. Let's tweak this one. Maybe we can add a few here and there. But, we really haven't put, a strong lens on the Nightmare Dungeon affixes as we have in Season 9, especially when we're looking at trying to promote new types of rewards, or at least variations on the type of rewards that dungeons can have. So you see here, we've got a Herodric
the same symbol as the
Reserve
boss fight,
and
right? Yeah.
Equipment Delve, and both of these are new types of rewards that you can find within the dungeons. Equipment Delve specifically is you are seeking around the dungeon to find these gizmos that allow you to upgrade the rewards that you get at the end. Let's move on. All right, so let's talk about strong rooms a bit. I said it was a micro dungeon, right? This is a micro dungeon, however, that's going to be hidden within a Nightmare Dungeon. So, the Herodrim have always been very secretive, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to explore gameplay kind of along those lines. And so you, upon entering the dungeon, have to find the entrance to this, Herodric strong room. Now, once you're in the strong room, and you basically are going to be earning Herodric attunement by slaying enemies. And this attunement is going to improve the chest that you get at the end after defeating the mini-boss. So really, all said and done, what this strong room is about is maximizing that attunement. If it feels a little bit like the Gauntlet, it does have some inspiration from that. We don't have the Gauntlet in the game anymore, but we wanted to, bring that element of really trying to maximize your score within a certain period of time, and giving you a lot of really interesting ways to do that. And so what you see here in the image is one of those tools. These are tests that you can choose to take at the beginning of the strong room, and that will modify how your strong room plays out. And there's a couple of other images here we can go through as well. Here is the Herodric portal that you'll enter in order to get to the strong room. Here is the gate that leads to the strong room. So you have an ante room right before the strong room where you have to perform a little test to make sure you understand what's about to happen next. I think there's one more. Yep, here's some combat around one of the Herodric pillars. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the Herodric pillar does, but Herodric pillar is one of those ways to boost your score.
Ante room.
So with the Herodric strong rooms, we're really interested in just getting a good amount of feedback about, is it fun enough? Does it differentiate itself enough from some of the other modes that we've created? And so, yeah, let us know. Next up, we've got Escalating Nightmares. Now, this one, I just got done playtesting this morning, and it's really coming together at this point. We're really happy with it. So this is a progression that allows you to fight through a series of nightmare dungeons.
Progression, okay.
3 specifically. And each time you enter a new nightmare dungeon, new affixes get added to the list of dungeons, increasing both the difficulty and, of course, the fun part, the reward efficiency. And so it's going to culminate with a boss fight. The one you're going to play in the PTR is going to culminate with that Astaroth boss fight. And in order to get into, an escalating nightmare, you're going to need to get an escalating nightmare sigil. Now, this is currently going to drop in Torment 1 from Strong Rooms. All right, I think there is an image of a totem coming up. So let's take a look at that real quick. Yep. So at the end of a dungeon, you're going to be looking for this particular totem, and that's going to allow you to open a portal immediately to the next dungeon, which is honestly going to create a nice flow state running from dungeon to dungeon to dungeon. So you don't have to back out if you don't want to.
I like.
You don't have to go into your inventory and hit it again. You just hit the portal and go. So that's pretty cool. With the escalating nightmares, I think the thing that we probably want the most feedback on is actually how you go about acquiring it. Right now, you can only get them in Torment 1, and going into the PTR, we're like, well, that feels pretty good. But we're also like, well, do people want to try and experience this earlier? So this is something we'd love to hear from y'all.
Excluded from boss ladder?
Finally, we've got Astaroth reignited. So Astaroth, of course, is, a very recognizable demon from Diablo 4 base game. And you know, we were really trying to think of somebody.
I actually
we
do
could
like
put
Astaroth though. Not
a
gonna lie,
face,
he was also kind of cool
you
in the
know,
campaign.
to for the upcoming season. And somebody said, well, what about Astaroth? And we thought about it and we're like, well, yeah, you know, that's kind of unfinished business. Really, this is kind of a rematch when you come down to it, because you defeated him the first time, right? You knocked him off the amalgam, and then you saw him in hell, but we really haven't seen him since. He's just sitting there relaxing at this point. So we really wanted to have this rematch, but if it's a rematch, we don't want to give you the same fight, right? So we've updated the combat mechanics, and there's some things that will feel familiar, but there's some new twists in this fight as well. The final thing I want to say about Astaroth right now is he is not immediately going to the boss ladder. We're really trying to find ways to integrate some of our bosses in new fashions within the overall end game. It's pretty important for us to, you know, kind of branch out. You know, we did a great job iterating on and polishing up the boss ladder last season. So we want to try some new things here, and let us know how we did there. But I think there's a tease of Astaroth coming up, so let's check it out. So here we are entering his lair, and this part of the fight, first phase of the fight, it's going to feel a little bit familiar.
Pulverized
Going to be
Druid.
riding the amalgam, but you know, pretty soon it varies up quite a bit, and so we're going to leave it at that, I think. Honestly, yeah, I don't want to spoil it for folks. Just go check it out when the PTR hits. So I think at this point, we are going to chat with Liam next. So I'm going to kick it back to Irvine.
15 years later, still hitting the boss.
Oh my gosh, I am so nervous right now. that caffeine is combining with that nervous energy, and it is creating something, I don't know. We're just going to go for the ride.
Ride that wave, Liam. Ride that wave.
Ride that wave. Let's get.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Wait, that's not me, is it? Okay. It's still on YouTube? Energy. It's on their end? Okay. He's the only one that's gonna say it is you. Working for you on Twitch, right? Ride that wave. They need PTR for Twitch streaming. Let's.
Unique utility. Again, what does that mean? It means a lot. There's a.
This is a pretty intricate system,
yeah. These spells are not just like, oh, what one does the most damage, right?
Yes.
It's a lot about like, what kind of functionality do I want with these skills, and you can really customize it exactly how you want.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. Go ahead.
Yeah. Previous seasons, you know, like in season 8, you get the power from the boss, and that is the one thing that you have, and that's the visual component. But like you said, you build these Heartseeker spells. Like you get to pick the different things you want to put together, which is really
cool. Yeah, it's so cool. With that said, let's just hop into it. Let's start digging into what these are. All right, so right here, what we are looking at is a catalyst. And a catalyst, for those that don't know, which probably most of you don't know, is the foundation of your spell. This is what gives it its form and its function. And as you can see, there is already so much depth here. It has a lucky hit chance. It has its own cooldown. It has a rank 10 bonus. And it does a really cool effect that isn't just damage. Each one of these, they do something unique that you're going to love to play around with. And there are multiple of these.
So how do we trigger the catalysts in the first place? How do we get those going?
That is a good question. There's even a lot of depth when it comes to that system, and I think the next slide is actually going to be the best thing to convey that. All right, so what we are looking at right here is the seasonal interface for Heartseeker Spellcraft. And if you look, you will see that there is actually a bar right there on the UI that kind of mimics your action bar interface. And if you notice, when the catalyst got placed into the slot, the action bar skill now has a purple blinking border around it. What does that mean? It means that your catalyst is now bound to that action bar skill.
And that's where the cooldown comes in, right?
Yep. That's where the cooldown comes in. The cooldown is the limiter, so you're not just going to always be able to press that button and make your catalyst fire off.
Right.
It's beholden to its cooldown. But thankfully, ranking up does lower the cooldown, so you're going to get more and more frequent use out of these catalysts as you rank them up and make them more powerful.
Excellent.
Corresponds with your action bar.
That's what's going on in this interface. Let's see what happens when this rogue presses the button with Celestial Surge equipped.
Kind of.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. You see, that does most of the talking for itself. So basically what just happened is that the rogue threw the smoke bomb. And the smoke bomb was the guiding factor for the catalyst. And the catalyst created that arcanic Herodric rune on the ground right where the smoke bomb landed. It did its pull-in effect, and then that barrage of stars just started doing their work randomly all over that area. What do you guys think? Is that pretty cool?
That's pretty neat. And that's only like one of the possible combinations, right? Because like you have one catalyst there and you assign it to a specific skill, but you could pick any of the catalysts and you could assign it to any of the skills that your class has available to it. And the way that the catalyst interacts changes based on the kind of skill you're using, right?
Exactly. So think of it like an extension of your skills. You know, it's going to feel very natural and organic as you're, what's the term? Invoking these into combat. So, go ahead,
I really like how you get to choose like when you deploy this in combat, right? If you want it on smoke bomb, it's like, okay, I want to be CCing in enemies, or like I know there's a clump of enemies there, so I can deploy this at a key time. Or if I like don't want to think about it too much, like I just want it to happen as much as possible, right? I'll just put it on my core skill that I'm pressing all the time, and it'll happen like as often as it can. And like you get that choice in how you want to deploy these.
Exactly, and like I said, gonna feel natural. If you're a sword and you put it on Flame Shield, it's gonna summon on your character. If you're using a ranged ability, it's gonna go where the ranged ability lands. If you're using a melee skill, it's gonna be in melee range on the character you hit. It's just gonna feel like what you would expect it to be, you know?
Yeah, so the catalyst just really flows
So what about the main
powers,
powers,
the
little
want
four
to integrate it into your
things or whatever?
Effectively.
Exactly.
What is that supposed to do?
We don't want to spoil all of the catalysts. We want you to experience them on the PTR, but we do have one more for you to look at right now that's really cool, so let's go to that tooltip. So this is the Cosmic Anomaly. This is a summons type. We know players love summons. It's going to scale off summon damage bonuses naturally because it has the tag. It has a passive and an active component. For those of you familiar with Druid Companions, this is going to feel really natural to you. It's that same kind of setup. And
except Druid Companions,
I'm not even going to
really
mention the rank 10, but it's pretty
be
insane. Like, just if you read it, that's a powerful effect. So when you reach that threshold, you are unlocking a whole new realm of power for your catalyst. And let's go see what this looks like. What does it look like in game?
Oh, shiny.
So shiny. Look at that.
Very lightning-y.
Very lightning-y. Yeah, that's a... There it goes.
That's a real word, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm going to say it is.
Oh, I love this clip.
Oh, that's so satisfying. Okay, that's also a little heartless. I can't believe the Necromancer would do that. Those are your friends, and you just send them to go explode? Unbelievable. But good news, they come back. Your friends come back. So you can go send them over to explode. They do their thing, and then they always return to you.
Yeah, so the thing I really love about this clip in particular is that the Necromancer's chosen this catalyst and assigned it to Bone Prison, which is very clever because they also have a pull-in with Corpse Tendrils. And so what they do is they pull everything in with Corpse Tendrils and then cast Bone Prison, which invokes the Cosmic Anomalies and kills all of them while they're stuck all together inside the Bone Prison.
Exactly, well said. There's so many satisfying combinations for you to discover. We're going to leave it there, but let me tell you, the amount of depth in this system is so fun. We've had so much fun playtesting this internally. So,
oh, yeah. I've been playing it quite a bit in the last couple of minutes or however long, and apparently I lose track of time while I'm doing it. No, it's great. I love it. This is just such an awesome addition to the game.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Like, honestly, gotta say, like, so I did write the 230 PTR blog. I hope you all like it. But this is definitely a system, like, going in and testing it out before to then help write the blog. I was like, the blog is not going to cut it in terms of listing out all the different tools, like the way all the different aspects of the Heraldic spellcraft interface together. It's really something that you need to go in and play test yourself because of all the different combinations, all the way the different powers interface with each other. It's very hard to get on paper, so it's really something you got to go in and test for yourselves. It's a ton
Which you
of fun.
can, right?
Yeah, and you get that opportunity. How about that?
Exactly. Going forward, we have something cool to show you. We've talked a lot about
Liam's,
catalysts. Now let's talk about infusions. This is another thing you can socket into your Heraldric interface. And this is going to change the damage type, the elemental damage that your catalyst deals. And it doesn't just stop there. The damage type has mechanics attached to it that change its function too. Right. So what would you expect fire to do? Like, fire is destructive. It's really, you know, it's all-consuming. So naturally, it's going to destroy enemy structures. What does that mean? I'm not going to tell you. But you're going to, well, maybe you're going to see it in just a moment, actually. But I'm not going to tell you for this time right now. And fire also creates burning areas on the ground that will damage enemies that you keep in that area. And it doesn't stop there. I'm sorry, there's so much depth on these items, and there are 5 of them, right? So you have so much choice. But also, while it's equipped, your fire damage bonus is equal to that of your highest damage type bonus. Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, so even if you're like playing like a frost sorcerer who just has like a lot of frost or cold damage, right? You can still use this, and it kind of benefits from all of your cold damage because all the elemental damage types kind of get equalized here.
So I could be, for example, a frost sorc, and I just have copious amounts of frost damage bonus, right? It's just it's flowing everywhere. I have too much of it. I swap in the poison infusion, and then suddenly I have an equal amount of poison damage bonus. Right. That's really cool because my poison catalyst is going to be hitting like a truck, and players love dealing lots of damage.
I actually kind of like that part.
But also, and tell me if this is cool when you guys get to play test with it,
that would have
the possibilities expand even more because now I'm a sorc that has a lot of poison damage. And Ariel's Visage?
Yeah.
Like, do I want to throw that on my helmet now? I don't know. I've never really had that
kind of build crafting opportunity.
That kind of build crafting opportunity. So there's so much there. Just can't wait to see everyone's reaction when you all play with it.
And so just to make sure I get this right.
Can I be a fire rogue?
I have my catalyst. That's what we see visually in these clips here, like those cosmic anomalies. And we just talked about infusions. And infusions change the elemental damage type specifically of my catalyst, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So as you're seeing right here, he's swapping out the lightning gem with a fire gem.
This new guy is giving less than
fiery. They have smoldering flames. And watch this. When they combust, look at it. There's a burning patch on the ground, and you can get multiple of those. It isn't just always going to be one. This is destruction incarnate, right? This is cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And each infusion has like their own secondary damaging or just not necessarily damaging, but just effect that they apply as well.
Yep.
In
so
fire
basically leveling
it
powers.
Is layers on top of layers, right? So again, we're so excited. For people that were closely reading that tooltip on the infusion page, you might have seen a rank 5 bonus. Even more depth. We keep talking about depth. That rank 5 bonus, we're going to get into it right now. Basically, it allows you to deactivate monster affixes depending on the damage type you are using. So what would you expect fire to deactivate? Well, it makes sense that thematically it would deactivate chilling winds. Those are those like icy winds that monsters can summon in. They like slow your projectiles.
Yeah.
So annoying.
It is really annoying.
I was just playing I was playing a Bloodspear Necromancer, Season 8, and the chilling winds were so annoying.
Oh, yeah.
So let's look at a clip and see chilling winds being deactivated.
So this is a different catalyst than we've seen before, right? This one draws like a damaging beam.
What?
Yeah, so this is Disintegrate.
It is
another catalyst. We're not going to show you the tooltip about all its possibilities and what it does. But yeah, you'll see that the moment he deactivates the monster, those chilling winds just disappear. And they will stay disappeared as long as they are, consistently deactivated. So as you know, this is going to be very satisfying.
You have to run through the thing like around the wall to deactivate it?
And if certain monster affixes just ruin your day you really dislike them, well, they're just gone like that. And we have one more clip to show you.
Okay, let me see if that's...
Yep, so... Oh, okay, there we go. The Waller wall is just gone.
That one was better.
This is also fire, because I talked about structures.
But
that's Waller walls. That is lightning totems, those like things that arc lightning damage, the red lightning damage all around the arena. That is tether points, those things that like chain you to the ground. Fire destroys all of those. So
Yeah,
we're going to leave it at that. We hope you really have fun playing around with that.
Yeah,
No more wallers.
Yeah. If you hate wallers,
yeah.
your problems have your prayers have been answered.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's super handy because now if you're going into a nightmare dungeon that has particular monster affix, you can just slap in whichever whichever
Yeah, the
infusion
wall
you need,
actually
and
really
then
wasn't that
you won't have
bad.
to deal with
And
it.
the lightning totems would be actually kind of nice to get rid of, but
So
a chilling wind
there's
one?
going to be so much choice here to like swap things on the fly and react to things to kind of suit your play style. And that's really cool. That's really exciting. But wait, there is more. We have more in this system for you. Actually, we have 3 more socket spaces of things you have to think about while you are designing your spell. So let's get into that. So we have Arcana.
Oh, yeah.
Arcana are going to be dropping in seasonal content randomly in the released version of this season. But on PTR, we're just going to be giving it to you. So you'll be able to play around with all of them. But Arcana are like, think of them like the tuning knobs for your powers. These are small, subtle effects that when you add 3 of them, they really kind of tailor the power, the catalyst, to your play style.
Yeah, so we have, okay, so let's recap again really quick.
Yep.
We have the catalyst, which is the visual effect. We have the infusion, which determines the catalyst's elemental type and gives it fancy bells.
Some of this needs to be temporary.
Then we have the Arcana, which even modifies it
be
further. And like we saw there, like you could make it bigger, or you could give yourself a buff when you use
But I know what you mean.
Kind of stuff.
Exactly. So like, let me just walk you through these 3 Arcana right here. So I picked these 3 because they kind of show off different reasons you might use an Arcana. So starting on the left side with Gleaming Conduit, it increases the effect size of your catalyst. What does that mean? Let's go back to the first catalyst we showed off. It was the Celestial Surge where you had the stars raining from the sky. That's a randomized pattern, right? That's a bit of a downside. But with this placed into the socket, suddenly those stars are creating bigger impacts when they land on the ground.
Right.
Meaning by swapping in this Arcana, you are overcoming a bit of that downside and you are making that damage more consistent and just more overall impactful.
Yep, and that's just going to apply differently to each catalyst.
Yeah. For Tranquil Stone, I'm actually just going to throw this over to Charles. Charles, what class might be happy about this Arcana?
I mean, I've heard some classes, Necromancer, talking about how they don't have too many options for Unstoppable. Well, now you have many, many options, 5 different catalyst options, and tons of different ways to invoke it to gain that Unstoppable. So, Necromancers, look out for that Tranquil Stone.
Exactly, yeah. So
phenomenal.
Again, this kind of goes to that philosophy of
that part I do understand, yeah.
Holes.
Instead of just baking into our kit somehow.
One sec. Okay. Technical difficulty aside, I can hear again. Tranquil Stone will basically overcome some downsides of your class. It will, fill in the holes and allow you to overcome things you lack, and that's really cool. And then Potent Alloy. Alloy?
Frost Tyler raided my stream with 12 viewers.
I pronounced it correctly.
We just got raided, son.
We talked about
you know how we do.
What a time to raid.
Drop my new beat for these new viewers.
You're even going to find some Arcana in the mix that will also additionally interact with even more monster affixes. Right. So if that really suits your playstyle, feel free to
Sorry, we're watching the
but wait, there's
campfire
a little bit more. We're getting there, but there's a little
Frosty,
bit more.
Thanks, Frosty. I appreciate you.
There are also legendary
Wait, guys, there's
Arcana.
more.
And when we think about legendary Arcana, we're not really thinking about pure player power. We're thinking about how hard they are to understand, the depth of them, right?
Yeah,
There's just a lot going on. And what do I mean by that? So there are 5 legendary Arcana that you can discover out there. And as you see in this slide right here, we have Nightmare Orb. But if you look at it, it changes. What's going on? So let's start on the left side. So on the left side, your Nightmare Orb is speaking to the Cosmic Anomaly catalyst from before.
Oh, yes.
And it adjusts its effect to match it. So when you put this on your Pet Summons catalyst, suddenly they're going to have this little aura around them where as they run into enemies, they're going to fear and slow them. But if we go to the right side, the Nightmare Orb is talking to Celestial Surge. And this does a completely different effect. It's going to fear unaffected enemies. But once the fear ends, you have a chance to create even more stars.
So these legendary Arcanas care about each individual catalyst then?
Yep. Exactly. So the same legendary Arcana has 5 different variations to wrap your head around, and there are 5 of these. So 5 times 5, I'm going to say the keyword one
14.
more time, I'm sorry. That's a lot of depth.
So I feel like you've just presented to me and us a unfathomable amount of combinatorics, Liam.
Yes. Yes, I did. Okay. My earpiece has fallen out now like 5 times.
So the funny thing is, if you guys remember from last stream, Adam's earpiece was falling out all the time.
Yeah.
We actually changed that, and I got the souped up earpiece. So this baby,
unfair.
that's locked in,
So
and we're going to be getting those
unfair,
for the rest of the stream. So as Liam struggles, I benefit.
I'm good for like a minute, and then it's probably going to fall out again. Actually, I already feel it falling out. Don't worry about it. Instead, we have some really cool video content to show you while the rest of us just talk broadly about this system and why we're so excited. So everybody, the floor is open. What is your favorite combination? What are you the most excited about when it comes to these spells?
Yeah, I really think that I love finding ways to get my ultimate cooldown really low so that I can trigger it on my ultimate constantly. It kind of mixes really well. I'm just playing like an ultimate build in general. It's really fun.
Yeah, I've got a soft spot for summons. I really love the Cosmic Anomaly. I love just having a bunch of guys out there, even if they're floaty, glowy orbs of elemental destruction, and love commanding them.
Not
and
more
having them go and
ultimate
explode.
cooldown, really?
That's just really fun for me.
Yeah, I've been a big fan
rip-
of playing Barb
rip the
lately,
meta,
but
guys.
I find when I get into the higher torment tiers, you're just like
the
so
meta.
up and close and taking damage that the survivability does get a bit more difficult.
It's
So
all-
like having
it's
the
all
ability
ultimates
to use
again.
some more like ranged abilities to
rogue.
then throw my spellcraft out and then kind of do some CC while I am like an up close and personal player, and like I'll probably play a rogue next season too. So in a similar vein, like being able to kind of like still have those
He's gonna play Death Trap Rogue. I bet.
damaging abilities that are will do damage over a distance while being able to like go heal in the corner. It's nice to just like
Damage at
influence
a
those play
distance.
styles.
You don't play the game,
Yeah,
sir.
definitely. So again, so much content
No one
here. We
deals
are
damage at a
unbelievably
distance.
excited for you guys to get into the PTR and try these out.
Yeah.
Again, we've had so much fun playtesting them, and we can't wait to see what everyone thinks about it.
I feel like I got into a state where like I was playtesting Heartseeker Spellcraft, and I was like,
Phenomenal.
the time just started slipping away because like I just started being like, well, what if I like did this catalyst with this infusion and then applied it to this skill? Oh, and now this Arcana matters, and that just happened again and again and again. It was just so much fun to play with.
Those minutes were the loading
It's a
screen.
really
machine.
intricate system.
And the occasional
I just want
crash.
to throw it to Aislinn, and I get to say one more thing.
Do it.
There's more.
There's more. There's already enough, Liam.
There's more.
You think we need more?
Yeah, you want to
Where's
throw
Dread?
another layer on top of this, Liam?
Yeah,
You
But
crazy
there's
man.
more.
Well, yes, you are correct. There is more. There are
How many ways can we
Heartseeker
spell
jewels.
more?
Heartseeker jewels are
Heartseeker
what
jewels,
you might
okay.
be reminded by. Well, you might be reminded.
Not these again.
Excuse me, I can speak English. Occult gems from season 7. They are very similar to occult gems from season 7. We have a lot of similar effects on Heartseeker jewels that you might have seen from season 7 occult gems, but we've added lots of new shiny layers of paint and glorious effects to these Heartseeker jewels, and we've also really brought them in and both aesthetically and mechanically unified them with Heartseeker spellcraft. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be finding these Heartseeker jewels through tomes starting in Torment 1. So once you actually get to the end game, you'll start finding the ability to craft these Heartseeker jewels. You can then, once you've found the tome, take it to a crafting station and actually craft it with the seasonal currency Heartseeker files and gem fragments. And don't worry, it's not as many gem fragments as occult gems if you have PTSD from that like I do.
It was a little.
They didn't steal it from D3, honestly.
it was a
They
lot.
stole it from last season.
And yeah, you can then just socket them into your jewelry sockets and just pump up your build even further. And our first example here is Liminal Echo, which you might actually recognize as an occult gem in terms of a cheat death. But we have reflavored it and rethemed it and changed its mechanics to actually invoke Propulsion, which is a different one of the catalysts that we didn't actually show here, but you will see that in the PTR. And it makes you invulnerable, and then it has an ICD. But yeah, we have way more Heartseeker jewels than just that. There are 15 total.
of these.
They all do lots of crazy different stuff. So we're going to go over some of our favorite here just to give you guys a sneak peek. So the first one is Tyrant Bane. You can look over that text there, and you might think to yourself, is this Bane of the Stricken? And the answer would be, yes it is. If you are a D3 enjoyer, it is Bane of the Stricken for dot builds. I'm very personally excited about that one. The second one we have is the Starflux. This one is fantastic.
That's actually
it's just
that's actually
a
good one.
Straight value, double your catalyst damage. That's a lot of damage though. So if you do want to do that, you're probably going to lose control of your Heraldric spellcraft to some degree, which causes your catalysts to inherit their infusions randomly. So you don't actually get to determine or decide rather how that's going to happen. And then finally, we have Idol from Below. You may also recognize this effect from Occult Gems, but with a twist. I mean, the twist is, it's probably fine.
Jeweled Guardians, I bet they're pushovers, but don't worry about it.
No. Focus on the first line for that one. That's the important part.
Primary core stat, max life, unhindered. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
Nothing else to worry about.
For sure. All right, and I think we have a video of the Starflux to kind of give you a sense of what that is like. So this is the Cosmic Anomaly Catalyst with the Starflux equipped. And you might notice that they have different infusions applied to them because it's determined randomly each time a new Cosmic Anomaly comes out. And this can be really actually interesting because, Liam, to your point before, different infusions deal with different enemy affixes. So if you have the Starflux equipped and Cosmic Anomalies, you might actually be able to deal with a bunch of different enemy affixes simultaneously, which is pretty cool.
Exactly, and just look at that kaleidoscopic explosion, right?
Yeah.
So satisfying. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And we have, like I said, we have 15 Heraldric Jewels, and all of them do various wacky, amazing, cool stuff. So while you're experimenting with Heraldric Spellcraft and trying out all of the new things in Season 9, slot some of those in and see what kind of madness you can accomplish.
Yeah, not gonna lie, chat was pretty excited about the Heraldric Jewels. And like the Starflux, it looks absolutely nutty. I'm really pumped to test it out. A few call-outs for everyone watching as well. We will have a Q&A towards the end of the stream, so if you do have any questions for our development team, any questions for Dan, like what's the best way to make poutine gravy from scratch, you know, he's your guy for it. So we will have that towards the end of the stream, so drop your questions in chat. We do have community team members pulling those. And again, like, we want your feedback. That was a ton of information, a ton of systems, and we actually do have specific things that we're looking for in terms of what we're seeking for each bit and component going in the 2.3.0 PTR.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you know, I guess I'll speak specifically to Heraldric Jewels. Got to make sure I get the terms right. So we want to hear what you guys think about all the different Heraldric Jewels. We want to know, like, do these effects feel correct? This is the perfect time to give feedback on just straight up balancing. Does this give you enough bonus damage? Does this give you too much bonus damage? Does this feel good? Does it not feel good?
I'm going to have with that is
that the Jewel Guardians...
You know all these things are going to get bugged.
I don't worry about them.
Yeah,
all these interactions are going to be...
You should worry about them, you know? Maybe they need to get a little...
I guarantee you like 30-something% of them are going to be bugged.
Let us know about Heraldric.
Either don't work at all or will be like completely blown out OP.
For Heraldric spells, please just let us know how it feels both in early and late game. I know it's PTR, a lot of people are going to be mainly jumping into the late game, but early game is also really helpful. We want them to feel really cool and satisfying to use in all realms of content. We also just want to know about the effects themselves. Are they satisfying? Does anything feel off? Do we need to like tighten up cooldowns?
If you tell them they're gonna fix it or not,
get into the weeds with it. We will definitely be reading through as much as we can and making these spells the best they can be for launch.
Sometimes
now's the time to get that feedback, tune those knobs. It's the best time to do it. And for everyone watching from home, we also will have the D4 patch notes and the blog hitting after the stream. So if there's anything you missed on the stream, that will be available for you to read in depth and disseminate over the weekend before you jump into the PTR. But I know one of the biggest parts
you jump into
of the patch notes
I'm assuming is next
class
week,
balance. And we do have some Charles, you got a lot to talk about today.
I got some notes here.
This is the part I actually care about.
Kind of teed it up at the start of the stream how we kind of think about class balance currently. But of course, it's an ever-changing process, and we always want to be giving new things to play with, new ways to play Diablo 4, and so there's lots of updates this season with that in mind.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of the changes that affect all classes in some way before getting into each individual class and talk about some of the new stuff
dash build on Rogue.
These are kind of changes that are global or affect everybody.
You no longer dash, you just throw the knives.
Has been overpowered for a while.
Deal less damage than all the core skills combined.
It has been really like just one of the strongest things you can be doing across any class for the past handful of seasons now.
Overpowering
so we're definitely taking a big swing at it here.
Active damage rebalance. Okay, that's
so
interesting.
Overpower's initial design philosophy
Basis skill buffs.
It was supposed to be a stat that tankier kind of builds.
You see that? I know.
That strong defensive fantasy, things like Werebear, barbarians, blood necro, could build these defensive stats like max health and fortify.
Okay. You got me a little excited.
Into offensive power. That's the initial design conception of it, and which is why whenever you did overpower, you got bonus damage based on the amount of maximum life and fortify that your character had. This ended up being a lot because it was kind of tied to the like ratio of how much of health you already had. I don't want to get in too deep into the math here, but basically it was a lot of additive damage. So it would be the equivalent of you having like plus 1,000 or more % damage on your gear when you overpowered. And that led to overpowers being extremely strong, far more than, say, critical strike, for instance.
And even
I think I said that right. I said that like
originally weren't intended
yesterday or the day before yesterday about overpower.
So
I think it was yesterday.
We saw it just every class.
Why it was just way too
to
strong.
Overpower because it was so valuable.
Yeah.
Probably also didn't help that it's already so good to just stack max life. Right? So it was like you're doing a ton of damage and you're doing the right thing by stacking max life because it's so potent, right? So it was very dominant for that reason.
Right. And so in this season, in season 9, we're going to be making an update to that additive portion, the additive damage that you get from the overpower, that messy behind the scenes formula that you would get, essentially reducing it by 80%. So if you used to get 1,000% bonus damage there, it's only going to be 200 here in the PTR. It still gives a multiplicative bonus, just like critical strikes, because it's still rare. It's still you need to work to get your overpowers online, just like critical strikes. So it's still going to be powerful. Overpowering is still going to be better than not.
I agree with you, Matthias.
But it won't be so infinitely far ahead like we've seen.
This one's a W.
We definitely want a lot of feedback on this because we know it's been the real big talking point of a lot of different meta builds right now.
It looks like the meta actually might shake up after all.
Yeah.
That's not the intent. We don't want everybody to feel like you have to do it all the time in order to optimize your damage. So we definitely want to make sure that we open up the possibilities to other classes. Kind of tied in with that, the additive damage rebalance. So that's the base power of overpower we talked about. Another contributing factor was that whenever you got overpower damage on your items, it was just overstated. We balanced those initially when earlier on in the game's life time,
so can we get
had
way
a
more
different
basic skill damage
how
now?
often players would be overpowering or doing any of these kind of conditional effects like critical strike or dot damage or what have you. So we've done kind of a comprehensive pass on items, the base affixes that show up this season.
You'll stop being way negative because Beak is still a little negative.
We're going to give you an equivalent amount of critical strike damage and overpower damage if it appears in the same spot. Previously, it was something like you would get a one-handed weapon, and it would literally have almost 200% overpower damage and Ancestral, and it would give like 55% critical strike damage. And that's just way too different, right?
Yeah.
Like that was one reason, like, well, why would I build crit damage when I can build overpower and get 4 times the benefit? So we're looking to renormalize that and kind of establish a better baseline of comparison of these stats against each other.
This is the stuff I care about, like the actual
everybody in some way as you're building
change, base game
your items. You're going to be looking for different stats. The numerical values will be different there, but we think it gets into a much better
about the
state
seasonal
for
stuff,
allowing
honestly.
you to go, for vulnerable damage, for crit damage, for summons damage, and not feel like you're doing it wrong because it wasn't overpower, right? Next, we've got a basic skill buff. There's a lot of things that affect every class this season. So talking about basic skills, this is kind of an initiative where we are starting here to really comprehensively look at all of the skills in the game and look at their relative balance against each other. And sometimes we've had some basic skills.
Season full basic. No, it won't be. Not
negative.
Not with the damage over time.
By attacking because it's so weak.
Yeah.
And other
it's gonna
ones
be a
that
dot
you can
season.
actually really build a full kind of basic skill build around because it has a lot of support, has good base damage, has whatever effects. We've done a comprehensive pass on every single basic skill in the game and retuned them.
Okay.
And when I say retuned, I say double or triple their damage output for the most part. Literally skills that used to do like 20% of weapon damage now do like 60 or 80%. Just massive increases on every single basic skill in the game. Now, that's to help them kind of compete.
Where's Blaine?
And right out of the box, you get a basic skill, you press the button, it feels impactful.
My leveling build
That's
is
the goal.
Right.
My Heartseeker leveling build just went up.
Basic skill oriented builds in the late game to
Heartseeker leveling,
but of
guys.
course, we just tripled their damage output. That would cause some of them to be kind of way too good on some ends.
Yes.
So we have adjusted some of the scalars that you see on some of the legendary and unique items that talk to basic skills in particular. Brought them down a little bit. We still want them to be competitive and
nerf to Shard, nerf to Moonrise, nerf to adaptability. I bet.
We're not trying to triple every single basic skill. We want to make sure that it smooths out that progression.
Right.
Okay, we'll see.
I will say that this is, we looked at basic skills here in this season. It's an initiative where we're going to be looking at other categories of skills in future seasons. So definitely keep an eye on similar kinds of comprehensive balance passes for future seasons as they come down. So your feedback on exactly how we landed on this basic skill pass is really helpful to help inform, like, hey, is our methodology, our comparison right, and were the tuning on these accurate. Next up, maximum resistance. This is a relatively quicker point. So right now on live, if your maximum resistance for every element is capped at 70%. Now on the PTR, it'll be capped at 75% baseline, so everyone can get a little bit more resistance. The absolute cap is still 85 if you get some maximum resistance effects, but the baseline you'll get 75 resist in order to be resistance capped. In exchange, there were some unique items that were that had just a whole bunch of all resistance on them, like Yen's Blessing, some boots that just gave you like 50-some% maximum resistance to all elements. Those
solves too much of it a little by itself.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those outliers that really solved your resistance a little too easily, we're going to tone those down a little bit. But kind of in exchange, we give everyone the option to build a little bit more to make sure that building up resistance has a kind of a meaningful journey to it. And finally, on this slide that affects all characters, the key passives. We've also done a pass, much like with basic skills, to look at our various key passives that affect every build and kind of look at their relative power level. And a lot of the outliers that we've seen in class balance historically have come from a key passive that just scales kind of infinitely, right? You build up some critical strike damage, which increases your other damage, and that just scales infinitely. And that causes builds that can use that key passive to be far more powerful than builds that use other key passives, which maybe don't scale that infinitely. So with that in mind, we looked at every key passive, and we set a bar of about 75% multiplicative damage bonus. So if it just said do increase damage, it would say 75% increase. Right. Now some will have more conditions. It only affects certain types of damage, and so we budget those at a little bit higher, and so on. But anything that had like a previous uncapped scalar, we're going to put a cap on it to make sure that it kind of hits that 75% mark.
Oh, no.
And even a handful of some key passives that were underperforming that mark, that were not quite that good, have gotten a buff up to try to let them compete.
Does that mean
builds
like
that got some of those buffed
all
key
of our
really
key passives, at least 3 of the 5, are going to have caps?
I'll just make a comment. We're not the fun police, right?
No.
We're not coming here to ruin your day, but what we are doing is we want to make a more
precision and
consistent
victimize are pretty
experience
bad
for
right
our
now.
players. And we want the pieces to fit together naturally. Your progression is smooth. There's all these puzzle pieces. They just make sense as you stack them up. And we want to move away from having such extreme outliers.
Yeah, the extreme balance outliers are really what kind of can kill the fun of the game. If you're like, hey, I want to play, whatever kind of build you want, but then you see somebody else doing something different, and you're like, oh, they are 100 times better than me. It actually does affect how much fun you're having because you feel like you're playing suboptimally. And by kind of bringing some of these more in line to kind of a budget of power that we want from certain sources, we help to eliminate those outliers that are like miles ahead of everybody else. With that in mind, we think that this is going to promote better build diversity, of course, as you can play more options, and it won't feel as bad that you aren't being left behind in such a way. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to the individual class changes. Those affect everybody. Of course, every class gets some new stuff to talk about here. And first up, we've got Barbarians. So for the Barbarian, The big talk of them for a while has been earthquakes in particular. Barbarians love to, stomp on the ground, and they stomp so hard that they make some earthquakes. Those have been extremely powerful for a handful of seasons, and we know that there's other fantasies to explore in Barbarian other than just earthquakes, and so we have done some updates to kind of bring down some of the power level of Earthquake, specifically on its legendary Paragon node, the Force of Nature, that gave it a ton of multiplicative damage on the Earthquakes. That has been brought down quite a bit. To the second bullet point here, a lot of the legendary Paragon nodes in Barbarian, Paragon, and across every other class has been kind of simplified. Some of them used to have effects, which was like, do a thing to get a buff, to give you some damage, and it stacks up to 5 times, right? It would be like kind of a multi-step thing for a Paragon node, which we thought that's maybe a little bit more complex. It's asking you a little bit too much. So we've simplified them, and often it's just like, hey, do a thing, get a bonus, and that's it.
Right.
And specifically on Barbarian, I think they got some of the bigger updates in that regard. And in a lot of cases, the Paragon become even more powerful, because you don't need to stack it up 5 times or whatever it might be. You just get the bonus right out of the gate. So they are slightly more powerful.
Could you say Barbarians are getting a seismic shakeup? I'm so sorry.
A little bit. On some of these, it may feel that way. Yes.
What Mattia said, basically,
Additionally, we've got a new unique item this season. We know that players love playing with a Bash Cleave from a while back, and now what if every other one of their basic skills could cleave? Well, have I got the unique for you? And it's my favorite named unique in this season, which is saying something.
It's true.
It is the Hooves of the Mountain God.
So good.
So, Hooves of the Mountain God, whenever you attack with a basic skill while you're at maximum Fury, you kind of enter the state where your Fury is going to be draining, and you're kind of empowered here, and during that time, your basic skills will cleave and deal increased damage. All of your basic skills will do that while you're empowered here. And of course, your Fury is draining, so you're going to want to keep spamming those basic skills to rebuild it back up and kind of maintain that state as long as possible.
Yeah, so at this point, with this unique, you really care about generating a tremendous amount of Fury, but it's not actually to cast a core, it's just to keep going.
Yeah, keep going and keep hitting with your basic skills that are just hitting hard and cleaving all around you.
It's pretty awesome.
We got a video clip here of this in action. Of course, we've seen Bash Cleave before through some of the tempering affixes. That tempering affix is going to be updated to give another multiplicative bonus.
I love the visual
effect here, but because now it can cleave through this unique, and of course you can mow through a whole
right there,
set of skeletons here with your Bash while your Fury is draining.
Yeah, I love that the part that's coming up where one hit, they're just all to the side.
Oh yeah, poor skeletons. Oh my goodness.
All right, we've got next class. We've got the Druid to talk about. All right, so the Druid this season, the talk of the Druid has been Cataclysm for a while. A couple points on that. So a lot of Cataclysm, it's this long-lasting ultimate, right? You press Cataclysm, you get the storm around you, it lasts a while. And it suffered from some, like, what we call snapshotting, where you get a buff or some effect that says, hey, your next skill cast does increase damage, or it has some effect. And when you press Cataclysm, it's obviously a very long effect, and it benefits from that effect, from the bonus damage to your next cast. That's absolutely intended, right? When we say your next cast, we mean the whole cast. Cataclysm is a great thing to do that on. That being said, we do find that Cataclysm being the only way to play Druid, or at least the only kind of competitive way to play Druid, is not really healthy, because we know that is a kind of mechanically intensive play style that you need to think about buffs, you need to set it up kind of precisely, and for players who like that play style, we love to encourage that.
Pump a boss in the
when
corner
it becomes the only way, or the absolute best way, the kind of mandatory way to play a class, that's kind of unhealthy. And so we've done some numerical nerfs to bring Cataclysm and some of the modifiers to it down to earth a little bit, so it will allow for other opportunities, other ways to play Druid in a competitive way. So some of those are Grizzly Rage. We've got updates to a lot of legendaries that used to talk to Grizzly Rage, and that does also remind me about what we're doing with legendaries this season as we talk about this. In previous seasons, we've always had a new unique item and a new legendary aspect for every class. Here for Season 9, we're just going to be doing a brand new unique item.
It's those Flurry gloves, isn't it?
Instead doing reworks to a lot of existing legendaries.
It's those Flurry gloves, I know
so a handful of legendaries on each class have been rather substantially reworked, where we looked at them and said, hey, we have a legendary that already talks to Grizzly Rage, but it kind of sucked. Right? And we said, well, rather than make a brand new one, let's take this existing one that really wasn't hitting that mark and then just like functionally change a lot of things to it. It may still have, you know, the same kind of theme, same kind of niche, probably keeps the same name in a lot of cases. But instead of like adding a brand new legendary aspect that kind of dilutes the drop pool, right? Every legendary we add makes it harder to find any in particular legendary.
You also don't want a situation where like if we leave that aspect not desirable, but then we make a new one that is, you're like, oh man, I really hope I find the good one and not the bad one. So that's another positive for this.
Exactly. So we've done a lot of updates in every class to take the bad legendaries and look to update them to support some of the new play styles that we're interested in encouraging this season. And so for Druid, several of the ones talking to Grizzly Rage and Poison in particular are going to be updated.
So benevolent of us finding homes for all these legendaries. You know, it's great. Like, now they have a home to go to. They actually hopefully find a new niche to fit into, and they won't be so sad off to the side and people pick them up and they're like, no, in the gutter.
That's absolutely the hope is that we're able to look at every legendary and unique item in the game and say, hey, there's,
sounds
you
like
pick it up and you read it and you're like,
me.
oh, I see where this would be useful. And you would feel excited about it. It might not be the build you're currently playing, but you see that it does have a home and a niche. That's our goal. And we know that a lot of legendaries in the game right now aren't hitting that mark, and that's why we're focusing on reworks, at least for this season.
Right.
With that in mind,
how
with
many
Grizzly
legendary
Rage and some Poison updates, let's talk about probably one of my favorite visual uniques of the season. I call it splashing poison puddles, right? Because you know we're coming up on summer here. Everyone loves splashing in the sun, you know, playing in the water. But we're in Diablo in the World Sanctuary, and nothing's ever that wholesome. It's poison puddles. Let's take a look at the Rotting Lightbringer. So the Rotting Lightbringer, every 10 seconds when you cast Pulverize, it'll form a poison puddle where you pulverize.
Pulverize.
And if you pulverize that puddle again, then it'll splash additional % of that damage to enemies nearby. It'll like throw out some extra little projectiles of poison. And of course, you are splashing in the poison puddle to damage everyone around it.
Sounds horrifying, Charles.
Oh, it is.
Sounds
for your enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
For your enemies.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. This is fun in the sun.
This is great fun in the sun. I think we got a video clip here of this in action, right? Of course, we're at the beach. Yeah. Where else would you be? You splash, make a poison puddle, and as you do that, you know, little globs of poison go out and hit the enemies around you.
And this is also marrying the concept of like poison, the theme in Druid of poison and werebear, which has typically been for specifically werewolf, but now we're seeing it here too.
Druids are the master of kind of this hybridization and mixing and matching these things. So we always love encouraging you finding ways to mix these up.
Right.
All right. Enough on Druid. Let's talk about the Necromancer.
So
Necromancer has had some powerful ultimates as well. This is going to be a common theme. A lot of ultimate skills have been quite powerful recently. In particular, Soul Rift and Blood Wave. Now, Soul Rift is a skill which does everything, right? It does damage. It gives you increased damage. It applies vulnerable. It gives you resource. Gives you barrier. It restores your potion charges.
Yes, oh my goodness, so many potions.
So we looked at all these things and said, well, we could like just chop down the numbers on some of these because like almost everyone is playing Soul Rift if you're not playing Blood Wave. It's like one of those two as a Necromancer. And we decided that the best course of action for Soul Rift is to just kind of reduce some of its functionality. So it will still do all of those things except generate a barrier. The barrier generation was giving a little bit too much survivability, which we thought felt a bit more at home in like the Bone Storm or Blood Wave kind of world. as kind of a more survivability ultimate.
Right.
Rogue is
Soul
next,
Rift will
I
still give you
believe.
lots of resource and still increases your damage by just a little bit instead of a ton. But we think that'll bring it a bit more down to earth and give some other options like Army of the Dead and Bone Storm a bit of chances to compete.
So overall, you would say like it's kind of moving towards being, its theme is kind of like it's an engine for you, right? It sustains your potions, it gives you a sense, and that's its big, gameplay niche.
Yeah, rather than being kind of your defensive tanky source. Bloodwave as well has been kind of the other ultimate skill that most necromancers have been building around. This one just does a ton of damage, and a lot of that has come from some of the unique items that interact with it. They give kind of a disproportionate amount of damage output in increase to your Bloodwave. Specifically Indira's Memory, which works on your pants, your leg armor. That's a slot which, for most characters that don't have a unique item, is not really an offensive slot. You can't really get a whole lot of bonus damage from that. And so we're looking to say, hey, any unique items that are on pants in particular, we're going to be looking to reduce the damage output of there. They'll still have some damage output, but not quite as much. And so that's where we're looking to reduce the power of Bloodwave overall, is on some of those uniques that talk to it. But of course, we've got new things to play with on the Necromancer. We've got Skeletal Archmages. And so this comes on the new unique, the Hand of Naz. So the Hand of Naz, new unique gloves, which if you really want to be playing a minion build, but you're like, I just want mages, maybe you're really vibing with the Herodric mage spellcraft theme of the season.
Ready for rogue change? I'm telling you, it's a Flurry glove.
Both your warriors and your
when
golems,
I accidentally dropped that wasn't supposed to yet.
You get to summon additional mages for every minion that you've sacrificed. So if you used to have a whole bunch of
combine that
bonus,
with the
skeletal
damage
warriors,
over time,
you now can get that many more mages.
Maybe like
once mages attack
off like half the
25
boss
times,
HP
they
or
get
something.
to level up. They can rank up to a skeletal archmages. They get a little bit bigger. They get a little bit of a flashy visual, and the skeletal archmages will deal some bonus damage, and also whenever they are attacked, they will teleport away to safety because they are, they got a new skill. When you level up, you learn a new skill. Same thing with skeletal mages.
It's just the way it works.
Of course. So let's take a look at this in action. So you got just 4 mages here. Of course, you're going to be able to have more if you really spec into it. And as enemies come up and attack those mages, occasionally they will teleport away. Their attacks now can do some additional burst damage, and they've got little like lightning effect on their hands, and they're a little bit bigger to show that they are, promoted to Archmage status.
So with this unique, I can't actually have my warriors or my golem.
Right.
Well, look at
So
that.
now I'm the
rat
tank
runs are back, guys.
for my mages.
You do need to be tanking for your mages, right? It kind of turns the traditional minion playstyle of like, my minions go forward and protect me, and it turns it on its head, right? You have this powerful backline of a lot of mages who do bonus damage, but in exchange, you need to protect them. Right. They can protect themselves a little bit with the teleport away to safety, but it's going to kind of be on you, the Necromancer, to be the front line in this kind of build.
It's pretty awesome.
All right, next up, we've got the Rogue. So the Rogue, big talk has been their ultimate skills, Death Trap. As ultimate
Eagle
skills
horn
are
buff.
they have been ultimate and very powerful for quite a while. Rogue's no exception. They've got Death Trap has been one of the most powerful builds for kind of 2 seasons in a row.
Iteration number 6
similar
for Eagle
to
Horn.
Soul Rift in a lot of ways. It kind of did a lot of everything. We also know that it did a ton of damage
venoms
on its own, right? And it also had a unique pants item, the Eyes in the Dark, that really talked to it and increased its damage output dramatically.
It might be.
So much in the line of our philosophy of, hey, pants armor shouldn't be so ridiculous amount of damage output, even if it is a unique. We've done some tuning on the Eyes in the Dark to make sure that Death Trap is not quite as explosively damaging as it has been in the past. We are looking to buff up infiltrators and bursting venoms.
No way to word that.
Legendary items that talk to poison trap and poison builds, and saying, hey, there's other traps out there. You can play poison trap. So giving a little bit more support here with those legendary rework.
We tried that last season.
And we also have some updates to Eagle Horn. This is the penetrating shot unique bow. Just some numerical buffs there to make sure it's actually hitting harder, and penetrating shot has a bit more
we went
of
from one trap season to another trap season.
We know that,
is that
kind of
what they're
ranged
trying to
rogues
do?
have fallen out of favor for a while. It's been a lot more about melee, and I mean Death Trap is even a melee kind of skill.
Yeah.
And we know that players love to play ranged rogue as well. So we want to make sure that we give a little bit more support to that to enable it. For those who do like melee playstyles, but maybe not trap, you might like Flurry. And if so,
New gloves,
we have got a great unique coming next season, the Death Mask of Nirmatruk. I definitely pronounced that correct. So you can now overexert yourself while casting Flurry. Well, that's a weird thing to say. What does that mean? It does mean that you spend your life total if you don't have enough energy. So energy, that's not a problem anymore. You have your whole life total to work with.
Yeah.
So you can keep on casting Flurry, but when it does cost you your life total, when you're kind of overexerted in this state, it's going to stack up a buff. It's going to increase the attack speed of Flurry, and it's going to increase its damage output for 5 seconds. So you really want to be in this kind of overexerted state. It doesn't actually do anything if you're not overexerting.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that you're getting to this state.
I
love how this kind of
50%
changes up some of your, like, how you think about your build. You don't necessarily want a lot of resource regeneration.
Right.
You want more health regen. Because if you have too much resource, then maybe you're not even getting into the state as often as you'd like.
That's actually not
Let's
bad.
take a look at this
That's
in action.
good.
I actually really love this clip of the rogue just going super
the dart
fast.
dance,
So they sneak in.
is.
And as they're stacking up, you can see they've got like no resource. They go hyper fast. This is such a fast attacking skill when it's all stacked up. But of course, the faster you attack, the faster your life total drains.
Yep.
And if you're really low, it's not going to kill you by doing this. You just won't be able to cast it there. But it does mean you're on very low life, and any stray attack might take you out if you're not super careful with it.
I will raise a flag for those of you curious about trying this out. It's called a death mask for a reason.
Yeah.
It might not necessarily be their death. It might be yours.
Sounds like my kind of
But on the positive side, you do get to look like an anime character zooming around like crazy. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Definitely hardcore players, beware with this one. Might be a little risky for you. All right, we've got the Sorceress next. So the Sorceress has been definitely one of our top builds this season, I would say, in Lightning Spear. And I think one of the big talking points around Sorceress for a while has been Lightning Spear. A lot of players have felt like that is the only or best way to play Sorc for a number of seasons now, and it's not just been one season here. And one of the reasons for that, I'd say the main reason, is that Lightning Spear baseline is pretty bad. Like, if you just get the skill on its own with nothing else, it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage.
Dart Dance?
But then you get Splintering Energy legendary, and suddenly it goes from 1 to 100 real quick.
Oh, yes.
That legendary aspect is
that with Dart Dance is
one of the most
really
powerful in terms of how much percentage gain does it give the skill in question. Splintering Energy is
curious about this Eagle Horn,
far above. Really,
is the Eagle Horn still going to be like,
and that kind of speaks to this outlier concept we've been talking about, where
they say range,
when you have
so
one particular source of power that is disproportionately valuable, like a key passive that scales crazy, or a Splintering Energy legendary, that's the only thing that matters, right? Is that maximizing the damage of this one thing is the only thing that matters. We find that leads to some of these outlier situations, and it's also just not as fun. Like, nothing else in your build mattered.
I don't know, Blaine.
It's just about that one.
Pinch shot becomes like a range unique
or key passive.
We find that there's
like
better
traditional
build variety
range unique.
And healthier class balance when that power is spread out
find some way
among
to
as
play
many
that way.
different sources that you might want as
Heartseeker,
possible,
if
rather
you
than
don't have to go
concentrating
close quarters
so
combat.
intensely in one.
Right, and so this was definitely one of the most egregious examples, I'd say, of concentrating the power in a single spot in that Splintering Energy aspect. So with that in mind, we've taken the baseline Lightning Spear and buffed up its damage rather substantially. But of course, the Splintering Energy has dramatically been reduced in effectiveness. So overall, we still think the Lightning Spear builds are going to be brought down quite a bit because they were quite far above everyone else. They also definitely relied on some of the overpower changes, or they relied on overpower to really get into the highest levels of pit pushing. And so that's overpower is obviously a little bit weaker in this season, so we think that'll bring it down a bit.
Talking about pit pushing.
In exchange, we're looking at buffing up some of the other builds available to Sorc. Specifically with Burning, one of the burning key passive, the combustion key passive, was one of those that was kind of uncapped scaling. It wasn't necessarily problematic, but maybe that was really just because Lightning Spear crowded it all out. Same with like Enlightenment, kind of crowding out those options. We have put a cap on that, like we've said with the philosophy of making sure that no individual power source eclipses all others. But with that in mind, we did look and say, well, hey, this might be a little bit of a nerf to some other burning builds like Firewall or Incinerate. And so we've just done like a 25-ish% baseline buff to those burning skills just to make sure they can kind of be compensated for that. Similar with Enlightenment, that was another one of the key passives that kind of blew past our power budget, so we've done a bit of rebalancing there. But also, we've got a new unique, one of my favorites, Huge Hydras.
Yes.
So this is the
chat has been very excited for this. They saw Huge Hydras.
Huge Hydras.
What's this?
Yes. So we've got the Ophidian Iris. This is an ancestral unique amulet, and here Hydra gets the core skill tag. So it'll benefit from a lot of your core skill bonuses, and it'll always summon a 3-headed Hydra on, rather than even if you had more heads. If you had like plus Hydra heads. You're still only going to get 3. That's kind of the baseline number. But for each head that you would have had above 3, the Hydra goes larger and deals like 100% more damage per additional head. And so these big heads will also do splash damage rather than just a single target and hitting one enemy. They kind of explode on impact, just like they're shooting fireballs.
Yes.
And so this is going to turn your Hydra from like a lot of spammy little tiny hits into individual bigger hits with big Hydra heads.
So it's no longer about how many heads can I get on my Hydra. It's about
it might be a basic build.
Big
I don't know,
can I make my
Dread.
baby Hydra.
Yes.
You know, they're doing a basic build tuning.
It'll scale up with its damage for every additional head that you got, and of course,
basic
this has
some proc
an inherent affix that casted Hydras do have +2 heads, which
there you go.
So you already have a bit of built-in multiplier on the amulet itself. So we've got a side-by-side comparison here, right?
That is a cool amulet.
Here we've got the kind of baseline. You got 4 Hydra heads. They're they're fine. They're there. But after, if you really build up lots of bonus Hydra heads, you're only going to get 3. But they're gonna be much bigger than you, the character, and can be as big as some of those big elites running around the screen. And of course, with splashing, exploding fire attacks, it should be a lot more appealing. We've also taken a look at updating some other things on Hydra. We removed its baseline mana cost, increased its lucky hit chance, and also done some other modifications to Conjuration and Hydra legendaries, just to make sure that like kind of a Hydra build really makes a lot of sense and is able to be competitive. So really love to hear feedback in the PTR about how these kind of builds land. And last but not least, we've got the Spiritborn. So the Spiritborn has been probably one of the classes that's been furthest behind, I'd say, in terms of on the current live season. And so we're definitely looking at, I think they're going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of the basic skill rebalancing work that we did, where we looked at every basic skill and doubled or tripled the baseline values of a lot of them. But in exchange, some of the scalars on legendaries and uniques, we adjusted those downward a little bit. The net result is still that basic skill builds will be better than before, and I think Spiritborn is going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. Additionally, we've also got an update to the deflection aspect with Razor Wings build. Previously, this was one of those legendaries that didn't really have a home. It dealt like a percentage of counter attacks damage, and counter attack does not do damage. So a percent of 0 is 0. Yeah. So now it's going to increase the Razor Wings itself damage when you reflect them with this deflection kind of gameplay. And so just a little bit more kind of multiplicative damage support for Razor Wings build. Following with the theme of ultimate skills on all classes, as well being kind of a little too strong. The Hunter ultimate, the Jaguar ultimate, has been the ultimate on Spiritborn since its launch that really every Spiritborn player has used. I think like something like 90+% of Spiritborn players are using the Hunter currently. And that's great that you're having a lot of fun with it, but it also means that there's other options that aren't really being explored. It's kind of taking up all the space in the build variety. And so one of the reasons for that is that the Hunter it resets itself. If you cast it and then kill an enemy, it's going to reset itself. And it can kind of chain reset. And the chance of chain resetting reduces every time it does. And so it just kind of like feels bad whenever you're like, oh, I guess I ran out of luck and now I have to wait.
Yeah.
we found that to be like one kind of degenerately powerful for anything that triggers on when you cast an ultimate, but also it was just not fun when you kind of failed to get that reset.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at reworking the exact mechanics of the way the Hunter reset works. So it'll still have that like kind of cooldown reduction theme, but it won't be quite as feast or famine as it was in the past. We've also got a new unique item. This one is the Balaton's Maxroll. I might have mispronounced that. Maxroll. I literally looked up how to pronounce this morning, and I tried.
That's good.
It's a tricky one, Charles. It's a very tricky one.
So this works with poison and thorns builds, kind of hybridizing those two together. So attacks against close enemies, when you're attacking close up, you're up close and personal. You're going to do bonus % of your thorns damage, but as poisoning over 3 seconds. So you get a kind of a free way to apply poisoning here. But if you've also been hit recently and you've retaliated with your thorns, then that poisoning damage is going to be increased even further. So it really allows you to convert your thorns damage into offense, and it does even reward you for actually getting hit with that thorns. But a lot of this is going to come in that poisoning damage when you're hitting the enemies up close and personal.
Yeah, I love how this unique really takes the core concept of thorns, which is you must be hit, but still it like empowers you very intensely in terms of your offense by leaning into that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely solves that problem where previous thorns builds were kind of, we were hesitant to make pure thorns of like just build thorns and nothing else to be too powerful, because then you just walk in and you AFK and everything dies, and that's not necessarily fun gameplay. And so I think this does a really good job of straddling the line of active and passive gameplay that thorns players would really want.
Totally.
So that's a lot. There's a lot of class changes coming in the PTR, and so we'd love to hear all the feedback you have around, do these unique items and the legendary reworks and the other balance changes, are these builds good, right? Can you play that Hydra Sork? Is it reasonable to play in Torment 4 at the highest levels when you have like the really maxed out stuff? And every point along the progression, and not just that build. Every build that I talked about here. We're also really looking to make sure that we get feedback on the basic skill update. Like I said, we touched every single basic skill in the game. There might be some outliers still, some things that are a little too strong, a little too weak. And as we're going to be doing similar passes and looking at other kind of categories of skills on the skill tree, we'd love any kind of feedback on kind of exactly where they land so that we can help and inform future balancing as well. And finally, just wanted to make sure that we really are focusing on kind of shifting up that very top of the meta. I talked a lot about some nerfs to the really overperforming builds, specifically Overpower, because we do want to make sure that Season 9, you don't feel like, oh, it's all the same builds all again at the top of the meta. For the 3rd season in a row. We really don't want that to be the case. We want to make sure there's new options for players who really want to push the limit of their character, and it's not just the same thing over and over again.
Totally.
Wow, well, Charles, take a bow. That was an incredible section. I mean, players are going to have a ton to chew on in the PTR. That is an absolute smattering of content.
Are you surprised he pronounced everything correctly?
I mean, you nailed it. I was ready to razz you on the spirit board unique again. I'm like, oh, man's been practicing. That's fantastic. So yeah, patch notes and the blog do hit following the stream. So if you missed anything in any of the sections, we will have those available following the streams. You can get in and really get into the nitty-gritties of all those changes. But we do have some more changes still coming that are going to affect the entire game. So Aislinn, I know we've got some systems. We kind of teased it. Dan sort of touched on it at the start of the stream, but we can finally get into it. What do you have for us?
Yeah, let's talk about systems, guys. So the first one I want to talk about is the the seasonal activity variety. That's the next one. So something we saw in Season 8 was we added seasonal currency to the lair bosses. And it was for the Season of the Boss, which we really ended up liking. The reason we like it a ton is because it touches all parts of the game. Like, you need to go to a bunch of different places to actually get lair keys. And so if lair bosses in the in-game are a thing that provide access to seasonal progression, that kind of naturally disseminates out to the entire game experience, which we really, really liked. So we actually want to keep that going forward, and we'd like to use that on top of any other ways that the player can earn seasonal reputation or seasonal currency in a given season. And the same is true not just in Torment, but across the entire game through elites and bosses granting seasonal reputation. Whenever you kill any elites or any boss in the game in Season 9, you are going to earn seasonal reputation. And this is tying directly into that problem we were having where, you know, we felt really pressured to go to Apparition Incursion. We love the seasonal content, and we love the Herodric Strong Rooms, and we love all the new amazing Nightmare Dungeon updates. But we also want to make sure that if you end up finding yourself in Helltide or in a Stronghold because you felt like it, you're actually earning progress, and the game's rewarding you for playing it, basically.
This makes me so happy because I'm a very scatterbrained player. I'm always, you know, I'm going to do this activity, then this one, then this one. But now I get to feel good all the time.
Yeah, so, that's the hope.
So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Of course. Yeah, so that's the hope with this update. And I just want to reiterate, there are still going to be really powerful and good ways to earn seasonal reputation and currency, specifically through interacting with the season. These are on top of all of that other stuff so that you can just go do a bunch of cool stuff. So yeah, that's that, and let's talk more about the Nightmare Sigils and what's coming with that.
Y'all really teasing
we talked
us.
a little bit about it when Dan was talking about this. And I actually want to preface this section with something that's not listed here, but I think you guys might want to know. You can now teleport to Nightmare Dungeons from inside a Nightmare Dungeon. We wanted to make that update, just a quality of life change, because this was season of the Nightmare Dungeon. So there you go. It's going to be a lot smoother to go from Nightmare Dungeon to Nightmare Dungeon in Season 9. And
I actually don't hate that. That's actually good.
Very happy about that, because it was kind of annoying to like have to leave the dungeon and then go to the next one. But that's no longer a thing. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about these new affixes and what's so cool about them. So, in live right now, there were only 2 positive affixes in the game. There was like an experience affix and a gold affix. And that ended up getting pared down over time. And we kind of wanted to take a step back and be like, how can we inject a lot more depth and ways for you to like find what you're actually looking for in a Nightmare Dungeon? And so what we decided and landed on was we wanted to make a lot more positive affixes, and we wanted to assign a rarity system to them so that sometimes when you crafted or found a Nightmare Dungeon sigil, you'd get really rare ones that were really powerful, and other times you'd get normal ones, but ones that might give you like a specific kind of reward, which can be really useful. And so here, for example, we have the Herodric Materials Reserve. This one gives you a smattering of different resources that you might need. So if you find yourself low on Forgotten Souls or other kinds of resources, you can specifically go to this Nightmare Dungeon and stock up on that stuff.
Okay,
and we have some other affixes like that, for example, specifically gems or different kinds of gems, which also helps you stock up on whichever kinds of gems you might be needing. And then there are, of course, still like the experience one and the gold one and a lot of other miscellaneous affixes that will just, hopefully be really fun to just go in and poke around and pick which ones are the best for you. And another thing I really wanted to call out is that we've specifically wanted to avoid penalizing specific elements or builds in negative Nightmare Dungeon affixes. So something we saw earlier in Diablo's development, or excuse me, Diablo 4 being live, was there were negative affixes that would say, you deal less shadow damage or whatever. And if your build was a shadow build, that kind of didn't feel great. And so we wanted to make sure that all of these negative affixes were more agnostic of speaking directly to your build, but still provided a challenge. And so with these 2 changes together, we're really hoping that we're going to see a lot more variety and depth in actually engaging with Nightmare Dungeons, and that they're not going to feel too frictioned, or you're not going to find a Nightmare Dungeon that just that feels like it's telling you, no, you're not allowed to play me. Like, we don't want that happening. And again, this is a permanent update to the game. We've done this because it is, a season very heavily focused on Nightmare Dungeons, but which was like the perfect time to do this.
Slip.
And now we're super stoked that it's going to be going forward. And we want to hear what you have to say about it. That, like I said, there's a lot of different affixes. Let us know how they feel, run through these dungeons. Let us know how interacting with the mechanics in them works, and if you like it or not.
With the positive
and we'll be able to take that feedback and make the system even better for Season 9's launch.
Yeah, that was actually a question that Addiction had in Twitch chat, which is,
these are generally positive
permanent?
changes,
so
though.
for this section, all these changes
like how much they
are permanent,
really,
and the
really
same
matter,
thing with
but,
Escalating Nightmares and
those
Barrage Strong
do
Rooms.
feel
Those are going to persist
good.
beyond the 2.3.0
Depending on
PTR
how
in Season 9.
good
So,
the
and then
escalation
everything
feels
Ethan's getting
as
to
well.
now, that's all going to affect the Eternal and Seasonal and will be permanent. So
correct.
Yeah,
yes.
super nice, super good changes.
Yes, super excited about it. All right, cool. Yeah, I think we have an asset here kind of showing off what you might be able to find in a Nightmare Dungeon. So that nifty little purpley mirror thingy is a Herodic artifact, which is a part of one of the new affixes that you'll actually find when venturing into Nightmare Dungeons. And of course, our rogue is getting rid of this pesky blood blister. So yeah, can't wait for you to try it all out. It's going to be fun. Next up, we have...
super highly ordinary.
I'm so excited.
I'm very happy and excited and proud to be able to say
increase the quality
we are increasing the quality of items per Torment tier. And what this means is when you go into Torment 2 or then further into 3 or 4, you are going to find more ancestral items. You are going to find more ancestral items from all sources. This includes layer boss drops. When you go and fight a layer boss in a higher Torment tier, you are going to have a better chance at finding ancestrals when you climb those torments. This is true throughout the world when things are just dropping randomly. This is true in the pit. This is true everywhere. We really like this change. We think that it rewards you for ascending the Torment tier in a very
and they do anything else? Yes, they do.
Like we say, punch you in the face kind of way.
Important.
And it's not so intense that it feels required, though, to go to higher torments. And that's something we also really want to make sure we get right, because we want to ensure that we're enriching the progression journey for all players, regardless of where you are in the game right now. And so, again, we keep saying this, this is going to be a test realm. So please go on, try this out, see if you can feel the difference. And, can you feel the difference? Can you not feel the difference? Do you like the difference between these different
bosses
tiers
were bad,
and
though.
the loot quality changes that are occurring between them? And that's just another topic that we'd love to hear your feedback on.
T-levels this game, mainly? Yeah, some. No.
All right. And with that said, let's just talk about a bit of more miscellaneous reward economy stuff.
It's progress.
Here, there's some more miscellaneous feedback that we got from Season 8 that we want to just improve on for the game so that everyone just has more fun. We hear you guys about legendary rune drop rates. We know that those were too low. So we've just increased the chance across the whole game
also
to get that back to a point where it feels like if you are playing a lot and you really are trying to make progress towards like crafting a mythic, that's feasible.
All Undercity tributes now drop a rune.
Another thing where, again, the big reward moments, we want to make sure that when you actually run a Tribute of Harmony, it feels like a big burst. Like it's like, oh, yes, okay, cool. This is a lot of runes. This is fantastic. And so now, if you really do want to find a lot of those runes, Tributes of Harmony are going to be a really good bet. We also kind of just want to inject identity into Undercity Tributes in general, that they now
increase gems from in front of horse.
Drop a rune always. So now just in general, going to the Undercity, you're going to find more runes than you certainly would have before, and that just applies to all different kinds of tributes. The Whisper Cache resource increase one is actually split among 3 different Whisper Caches. So we were finding that the Gold Whisper Cache, the Materials Whisper Cache, and the Gem Fragment Whisper Cache just weren't really giving you enough for the opportunity cost against the other kinds. So we just bumped up how much those are giving you of their respective thing pretty substantially. You can also now actually find whole gems inside Gem Fragment Whisper Caches. And it's only a chance for some of the good ones. Like, for example, I think there's actually a very small chance to find a grand gem now in a gem cache, which is a lot of gem fragments, so it's not a very high chance.
You gotta stop making my day. That sounds so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's go. And oh yes, this is one of my personal favorites. So we saw that the Jewelers of Sanctuary had adopted some Wanderer unfriendly practices, and their caches were perhaps a bit too expensive. And we have decided to, crack down on that and make sure that they are being more friendly to our Wanderers. So now here we have
those existed,
these different jewelry cache types. their cost has been significantly reduced.
I totally forgot.
And on top of that, not only has their cost been significantly reduced, but they're going to give you quite a bit more actual jewelry. So with the gem fragment increases, or rather like the different sources of getting more gem fragments and the reduced cost and the increased stuff from the caches, they should be more lucrative. And finally, talking about gems, we have increased the amount of gems you're going to be getting from Infernal Hordes as well. You know, again, punch you in the face. At this point, I'm sorry if I've given you a bloody nose, but you know, that's
lots of face punching today. Yeah. There's a through line in the stream.
Yeah.
Poison puddles and face
rated
punching.
M for excitement.
There you go. Yeah, but thank you guys for listening to the systems updates.
That one didn't land, sir.
There's a lot to unpack here, and these kinds of updates are sometimes a little challenging to test within a PTR environment because you're getting like all these boosts, and it only lasts a short period of time. But if this kind of stuff interests you, please, by all means, test it out. Let us know what you think. Give us all the feedback on it you want, because everything is just super valuable for us to tweak it to make it even more awesome.
Yeah, like as Dan said, Dan did, as I'm citing Dan, one of the things he said is like, now is the time that we can turn the knobs and really juice things up. So definitely go in and like take your time with a lot of these changes. Some of them might not feel, you know, impactful at first, but like really get a feel for how things have shifted, because there are so many different components in this PTR that it's gonna, you know, there's a ton of different influences.
At the anvil, a masterwork.
So that's really exciting.
I'm actually surprised they didn't mention anything about that.
Out, get some more
at least masterwork.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Small tweaks or something.
Yeah, so the 230 PTR, so some just general reminders for everyone watching. It's going to be exclusively on PC Battle.net, and it'll be available from May 27th until June 3rd. So get in, test it out. Please give us your feedback.
Pinned by Bloodshed. Look at this.
Forums,
still no rework of
PTR
tampering,
will be open.
masterworking.
That'll be the best place for you to drop your feedback. Of course, we will be monitoring our socials as usual, but we will be definitely looking into the forums to get most of the feedback there. The PTR boost will be available right outside of Kyovashad. Marak, our favorite dancing demon's there. Marak, he's kind of been getting fit for the summer. His offerings are so diversified this time around. Like, you can really segment out between seasonal currency into the different like item caches. Like, there's a lot of great custom boosts that you can get from Marak. So he is there. He's in Kyovashad. He's happy to see you as always. And yeah, give us your feedback on the PTR forums. We're really looking forward to it. But definitely get in there and test and give us all your feedback.
I gotta change my
our Q&A portion of the stream. So hopefully you've been dropping your questions in Twitch chat. We're really excited to get into it. But first off, we do want to take a moment to address our first question, which is, what are we potentially doing about Reliquary? So this is our first stream since Season 8 launched with the Reliquary. It was our team's first big swing at changing the battle passes in a big way, you know, bringing in different rewards, more enhanced rewards, giving some more choice to the players. We have heard your overwhelming feedback. We know that this is a system with some mixed feelings. And so we are looking, the team is working very hard in the background. We are looking to bring some more things into the Reliquary to really give you some of that value. And, you know, this is something we've been talking about a lot. Thank you all for the feedback on it. We've been reading that, you know, across forums and socials ever since the season launched. And do note, we do have an event Reliquary that is coming up around the corner. So in a couple weeks, pretty soon, you'll get another event Reliquary to dig your teeth into, but it is something the team has noted. We don't have a timeline on it, but it is something that we will implement in the future. So thank you again for that. Additionally, with Season 8, we also had the Berserk collaboration, which, like, Aislinn, I know you've got the Brand of Sacrifice on right now. Like, you're a huge Berserk fan. I became a fan once we started the IP collab. It's been really fun seeing all the, like, Guts and Griffiths running around in game. But again, we have heard your feedback on that IP collaboration, and we're taking that into account. And for those of you that know the roadmap, we do have another IP collab coming down the pipe in the future. So we want to take that feedback from the Berserk collab and really integrate that into the future offerings so that we can, you know, better diversify and change up some of the ways that you access those pieces of content from the IP collab. So again, thank you very much for your feedback. We do really appreciate it. You know, ongoing game dev is an iterative process, and the community is a very big part of that. So we very much appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And yeah, with that, let's get into Q&A. Okay. So thank you. Shout out to the community team for grabbing all these questions. What are we going to start off with? All right. Renata Kane. This one I might send this one to Dan first. Will you be able to find Heraldric strongholds inside Escalating Nightmares?
Yeah, you absolutely will. Escalating nightmares are nightmare dungeons, and so any feature that you could find in a nightmare dungeon, including the affixes we talked about, and also including heraldic strong rooms, will appear in that flow.
Awesome, love that. The Rudder. These new dungeon changes will be available in the Eternal Realm at the start of next season?
Yes, the Nightmare Dungeon affix changes. I think I might need to throw it to Dan. No, they're permanent additions to the game, so yeah, they should be available in Eternal. They should all be available in Eternal.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. One other question. I didn't have this. It didn't catch the name as it was flying past, but people were asking, where is mouse and keyboard on console? That is still coming with Season 9. However, because the 2.3.0 PTR is exclusive to PC, we're not going to test console changes. However, that is still coming. So
yeah.
Fear not. Wow, okay, I have to read this question just because of the username. Big Daddy Den 76. This one's for you, Charles. Okay. With Soul Rift not generating barrier, how is Necromancer going to gain defense?
There's lots of different options for Necromancer to gain defense. You've got some new options in the the seasonal heraldic spellcraft. You've got Fortify through some of the blood magic. You've got other ways of generating barrier, but not just on Soul Rift. They've got some passive and some other ways of generating barrier from legendaries. And you may just need to, access some of the defensive legendary options that are out there, which have typically been very underutilized, just because you had other ways of solving that defense.
Blows cold
we still think Soul Rift will be pretty appealing because it has, a lot of resource gain. But if you really want pure defense, then maybe look at some of the blood skills. Maybe look at Bone Storm instead, which still has a large damage reduction component attached to it as well.
Right.
Fantastic. Mippy. Are there any updates on tempering and masterworking?
Is that Miffy?
Yeah, so tempering and masterworking is something that we have been talking about internally. We don't have anything to share exactly yet about how we want to tweak the system. So hang tight. But I can say, in terms of a quality of life update, in 2.2.2, so the patch coming out in Season 8, we are actually going to be updating the amount of non-gold, non-obdicite resource and materials that it costs to masterwork from rank 1 to 4 and on the reset. And the reason why is because we were seeing that people that were getting pretty far into the end game would end up effectively deprecating the need for the gold and even potentially the obdicite, and then getting blocked by those other resources. But that was never actually the intent of the system. It was there, those resource costs were there to slow you down basically, or just rather friction you in other ways, and tax those resources, never to be the primary thing that blocks you. And so we don't want that to happen, so we've pulled back pretty significantly on how much that actually costs.
Yeah.
But beyond that, stay tuned as we keep filtering through feedback, and please keep giving us feedback.
That's really great, Ethan. I know we've all been masterwork blocked as percent points, so anything to reduce friction in that system is pretty great.
Okay.
Liam, this one's for you. Scroll of Wisdom.
I guess that's better than
With
nothing.
a system like heraldic spells being this awesome, are you looking to maybe make it a permanent part of the game? I already feel sad knowing it's going to leave the game for the next season's power.
So I can't specifically speak on that, but what I will say is nothing is ever truly gone, because we are developers. We have access to everything, right? So and this is a game that will continue to evolve and evolve. So the team hasn't talked about it. I can't say anything definitive, but we love all the seasonal stuff we create, and yeah, who knows for the future.
Yeah, it's something we've seen in previous seasons where, way back in Season 2 when we first did the vampiric powers, we brought some of them back.
I'm gonna let you guys know that as soon as this stream is over, I'm gonna have to go.
Once again, we're not committing to any particular bringing back,
digest
but
patch notes
it's always on our radar, and that's why we love hearing feedback about the things that really resonate with players, and then that can help us to design future systems, whether it be future seasonal or future kind of those permanent systems as well. We're always listening to that, and it's always on the table to bring them back, the ones that really resonate with players.
Nice. Party Cannon 1990, very fun
I go do
name.
real work, I know, right?
Will there in the future be a possibility that the Nightmare Sigils can have active whispers shown on them?
Yeah, that's another thing that we've seen a lot of folks talk about. It's something we're interested in exploring that space because it's a really fun and kind of a natural connection. Right now for Season 9, that's not something that's going to be directly in the season, but we do look to, make these kinds of changes going forward pretty consistently. So, if that's something you feel strongly about, please keep letting us know, and we will.
Well, according to her, Decoy, you have to keep letting her know since season
Charles,
0.
So I already know what you're going to say to this. Cop Mando, will there be any more balance changes for the current season?
For Season 8, the current season that is live.
Oh, actually, yeah. For the current season,
currently, no. There's no plans for any more balance changes on Season 8, the season of bosses that's currently live on the game. We've updated our seasonal balance cadence a little bit. So now, starting in Season 8 and going forward even into Season 9, we're going to have the PTR before the season. That's when we do kind of our initial batch, like, hey, these are the balance changes we're looking at. We take in a lot of the feedback from the PTR, and then we iterate on it, and we when it goes live, the season goes live, we say, hey, here's the live season. We'll take the immediate feedback from that if there's any kind of progression breakers, things that are really outlier, things that we kind of missed, or an interaction that, oops, that wasn't intended, and we'll try to make a rapid reaction within the first week or two of a season to bring it bring it down to earth, or to bring some of those builds that were really underperforming our mark and bring those up a little bit. But after that point, our intention is to really let the season ride, right? Once you're about 2 weeks into the season, you've already committed some time into your build, you've invested in your character, and we really want to respect that time investment. And we don't want to come in and say, oh, just kidding, we're going to dramatically change the meta on you right after you've already done all that investment. We just know that's going to feel bad for everyone involved. And so we've really committed to making fast, rapid reactions right after that season launch within a week or two, and then letting it ride from there until the end of the season, until the next season when we kind of repeat the cycle again.
Yeah, honestly, it's like I'm really glad at the way we do it too, because like even for Season 8, having it be a bit of a shorter season, it would be so rough to you're like, okay, I've got these 2 months with with my build and with these boss powers, so then to have almost like the rug pulled halfway through and being unable to really get into the nitty gritties of it and stick with that build. So
yeah, and that gives us as developers and like designers looking at this data and thinking about these balance changes, it allows us to kind of take our focus off Season 8 and focus more on Season 9. And so we're
are these short
higher quality balance changes and higher quality releases. By permanent
going forward,
moving on from a season to focus on the next one earlier. That just gives us more time to look at that data and really deliver high quality releases season over season.
So the little plug I'm going to put, please play the PTR because we're all a bunch of nerds. And I promise you, when you're playing the PTR, we are watching and we are just reading all the things being said, and it is so fun and meaningful to us to see people reacting and giving us new ways to improve the things we've made.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 110%.
150.
Yeah.
We will be reading your feedback. Do not worry about that.
I missed some of that.
Karoi Nekamata.
You talk about like doing shorter seasons
Liam,
in
this
general?
It could be one for you, but maybe for the whole team.
Is that what they're
would you
talking
consider
about?
the possibility that one can disable the effects of other players, or at least dim them down, so that one is not always flashed when, i.e., Sorks, like 4 Sorks are running around? And I could see that with the powers coming in this season. They are so bright and visual that it's be a busy screen.
It's probably a bit. The Heartseeker spells are pretty insane, and I know like we've had Earthquake Barbarians running around covering the ground with broken ground.
Guilty.
Yeah. So this is definitely things we're considering. Like we all, play the game and we play in parties, so we know what it's like when everything is just cluttered and insane. I can't speak to broadly everything. I've heard bits and pieces. You could talk about that, Charles or Aislinn. But I know with the Heartseeker spells, we are making use of some tech to do that on some of the powers, such as with the pets, the cosmic anomalies. You're not going to see 100 cosmic anomalies floating and going everywhere. They're going to be kind of dimmed out, very similar to like the Necromancer minions. We'll be using that kind of thing for them.
Yep. Yeah, this is a kind of overarching pain point that I think surfaces from time to time, which is very reasonable and fair. And it's something that the team considers, especially with every new release, the Heartseeker Spellcraft. I'm glad we're doing that.
They talk about anything that would make you want to play more. Yeah, actually.
It's something that they take into
some good quality of life, to be honest.
And they want to protect the visual clarity of the game, but they also want to make sure that
like the
people can see
they buff the ancestral drop rates per torment.
So if there are certain things that crop up that
pretty
you
major
find
one,
particularly egregious in that way, especially during the PTR,
probably one of the biggest
like
ones.
Let us know.
They buff the rune drop rates too.
And we can talk about it.
Each tribute now guarantees a rune drop as well.
Airsoft Daniel.
couple of other like
changes will be
actually
made to
nice quality
reliquaries in
life
Season 9 to provide more value to paying players. So kind of similar to what I addressed at the start of the stream, we do have some changes coming in to get some more content into reliquaries. It's unclear as to whether or not that's going to be hitting in Season 9. It will be in the future, so Season 9 is probably too soon for those changes to hit. However, we are looking to inject more of that content into the reliquaries moving forward, so it's definitely something to look out for. Probably not Season 9, but definitely in the future. And I think we've got time for one last question. Let's see. Ice Panther. This one's for you, Charles. Are you bringing out any more new items, ancestral or mythics, into the new season?
So for the new season, we're going to be releasing one new unique item per class, the ones we highlighted on stream here. No more, there's no additional items, unique or legendaries that we didn't talk about. But there will be some new, relatively new legendary effects because we did some substantial reworks of, we basically said, hey, this was something that talked to Grizzly Rage was my main example, and we just kind of completely changed its effect. So in some way, those are kind of new, but they're not brand new in terms of like a brand new legendary to collect.
And we didn't go over those reworked legendaries explicitly on the stream, but they are going to be testable in the PTR.
They'll be testable in PTR. They'll be in the patch notes blog once this is done. There just was like a handful, and because they were kind of reworks, we're naturally limited on time. This stream is already going quite a while. So we wanted to make sure that we, there are more
most classes don't have
changes and more content than we even talked about here. So make sure you check out the blog afterwards for all those details.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A portion of the stream, which brings us to the end of the stream. So yeah, if you're still watching, thank you for sticking with us. This one has been a beefy stream for sure. Patch notes and the PTR blog are going to be hitting following this stream. It is a very, very substantial blog, so we will have all localized languages available early next week. But you can check those out when those do go live. The PTR is going to be available from May 27th to June 3rd on PC Battle.net. I want to give a huge thank you to all the developers that have been here today. Dan coming in all the way from Albany, thank you for hanging with us this whole time. It's been really great hanging out with you and getting to chat the new season. And to all of you at home, thank you for tuning in. Like Aislinn said to start the stream, we love that you played Diablo 4. We love being a part of this process, and you guys are a very big part of that. Thank you to our production crew. There's a ton of hands that work behind the scenes to make these streams possible. They work very tirelessly. So thank you to them for helping bring these streams to life. And yeah, we will see you all for the 230 PTR. We'll see you in Sanctuary.
Hell yes.
Oh, and stick around following the stream because we will have a Diablo creator. We're going to be rating RizarJ on both, RizarJ on both YouTube and Twitch. So stick around for more great Diablo 4 content. But yeah, we'll see you in Sanctuary.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
My feelings are mixed. If I'm going to be 100% honest with you, my feelings are mixed about this. It started off as kind of like me kind of laughing at the live stream because of how ridiculous some of the stuff is or was, in the sense of where it's like I guess the whole seasonal power mechanic thing being borrowed powers with like the whole like interface looking almost identical to the boss powers, which look identical to the witchcraft, which looks identical to season 2 blood power, and then bringing back legendary or bringing back the witchcraft gems or whatever, which was a kind of like bringing back the Barbara Heart stuff from season 1. It seemed very like I was not impressed really at all with the seasonal theme stuff, which in the recent I haven't really been impressed at all with any of the season stuff. So like I will say the first hour and a half, hour-ish, campfire chat was like really a letdown for me. But the back half actually was pretty good. Like the back half starting with the class changes, or at least what they're trying to do with some of the class stuff or whatever. Like some of those sound exciting. I don't know if they're gonna actually be good or not. It's to be seen, but it looks like there's a lot of adjustments coming, and that part got me excited a bit to just see what it is. Hopefully it'll be good. We don't know, but at least we can go, oh, things are going to actually be different next season in terms of like how things are going to feel, be, strengths, all that stuff. So like I'm interested to find out what that is. I'm interested to find out if Eaglehorn is going to actually still be a pen shot unique, or is it going to be like, you know, reworked to be this range unique that they talked about, or is it still pen shot related? Who knows? And also a bit of the quality of life stuff was actually pretty good too as well. Ancestral items being tied per tier, you know, getting a better chance of them more your rooms, which means that we can actually craft mythics now without having to trade as much. There's so there are some W's in there. So it started off real bad for me, and then it kind of got better throughout. So that kind of leaves me at about a good, I don't know, feeling maybe 6.5, 7 out of 10 maybe. 6.5, 7 out of 10. When it started off as like a 1 out of 10 at the beginning of the first part of the campfire stream. For me, that is. Can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I won't have time to really view the patch notes, to be honest. Or maybe I do. Hey, does anyone have a direct link to the patch notes real quick? Usually I do, but let me see if the old link still works and they update that or not. I gotta tell you, I gotta tell you my age on stream. Look at that. I gotta do it again anyways. This is the old link. They don't update this one anymore, it looks like. Wait. How come I can't do the thing? Okay, that link is showing me like an old thing. Why? That's weird. There we go. Hash notes. It's March 14th. 20th. Is it wondering if I thought I did. Including patch notes, okay. All right, so this is it. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna go straight to some of the things we didn't see in the stream. Real quick. A unique helm. Doesn't look like they're gonna show us much of anything. Hold on, let me back up. Okay, so I guess we do get to see the powers and stuff, but in terms of like the class changes, it looks like this is not in this one. Oh wait, here it is. I think, maybe. All right. Wait a minute. I'm trying to do this like as quick as I can before I have to like run off or take off. Okay, Necromancer, Rogue. Okay, yeah, I guess they don't really tell us much of anything. All right, so they don't really tell us. Okay, so balance updates. Okay. Shard of Varathio reduced from 50 to 200 to 50 to 150. I knew that was going to happen. Pain Gorges we weren't using anyway, so... I don't know why they even reduced this. Why did they even reduce this? Like, this doesn't even like work with most multipliers anyway. Why would they even reduce it? Damage bonus reduced from 40 to 100 to 40 to 60. Legendary ranks increased from 16 to 21. Wait, what? Wait, what does this mean? Unless I'm just like silly. What does that mean? I don't remember this. Unless I'm just like real dumb right now. Legendary ranks increased from 16 to 21 on Moonrise. 21 steps of the aspect. Oh, okay. Alright, so they nerfed Moonrise and nerfed Shard of Varathio. Now we got a change from adaptability. Basic skills generate 5 additional primary resource. Once per skill. Basic attack skills 0.4 to 0.6% increased damage for each point of primary resource you have. Alright, so overall that is still a nerf, but at least we're not getting punished from being below 50% maximum resource. And now the basic skills can also generate primary resource. The basic skills generally don't generate resource though, or at least most of them don't. So like if they don't generate resource, do they now generate resource with this or no? Because that'd be pretty baller if that's the case. So even if the damage is lower, I think the effect is better. Okay, so yeah, so these are all the changes. It's about Rogue real quick before real quick. Just take a quick look. Puncture got a pretty nice damage boost. Heartseeker got a pretty nice damage boost. Forcer Arrows damage boost is okay. Invigorating Strike, 45 to 65. That didn't really get that big of a boost relative to these two. Blaze Shifts, this is okay. Decimnize meters required to gain charges increased from 30 to 34. This will slightly increase the movement speed requirement needed to make Dance of Knives infinite. Why? Is this to kind of make leveling not as good? Is that the whole purpose of this? Like, why? I don't know. Supreme Death Trap. Damage to enemies will reduce from 180 to 60%. Okay, that's okay. Now properly damage unstoppable enemies. Okay, that's a good quality of life. Deals twice as much damage instead of an extra hit from the rank 5 pull. Okay, improve Flurry. Casting Flurry dashes to target and heals you for 10% maximum life over 1.5 seconds. Okay. Okay, concealment. Skill that breaks concealment will always be a guaranteed critical strike. That's before. Concealment causes all skills for 4 seconds to be guaranteed critical strikes and makes enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Okay, that's a buff. I'll take that. Alright, passive nerfs. Damage percent of damage to close reduced from 25% to 10%. Damage bonus is capped at 90%. Holy. Precision damage bonus is capped at 360. Okay. Cold poison and shadow reduced from 40 to 12. Potency bonus capped at 150. I'm gonna need to like So on the surface, all this looks real bad, but what is this in relative to? Like, what else is? Hey, look at this. Percent of vulnerable damage reduced from 150 to 20%. Victimized damage bonus capped at 300. Like the uncap was a problem to begin with. At least they increased the victimized base damage increase from 60% to 90%. It's the only one that actually got a buff, a slight buff compared to these. Energizing aspect. Damaging an enemy with the basic skill. Generates 6 energy. Gain 30 energy after killing an elite enemy. Okay, so I like this because now it's not just an elite. It can be anything. I don't understand the nerfs either, but I'm curious to see the bigger picture because it's all classes, not just rogue. So I wonder what they're trying to achieve with all of this. So we're gonna potentially not use a passive at all. Yeah, well, infiltrators. Poison trap no longer breaks stealth, and triggers no cooldown. Attack all trap. Poison trap activate when you exit stealth and begin poison traps cooldown. Poison traps cooldown is reduced by 10 to 15%. Now a utility legendary rather than offensive. Okay, that's a good change. Cheats. You now have 15% increased damage reduction and 10% movement speed. Double while below fit. Okay, so they took out the condition aspect of it and gave you a little bit less damage reduction. I'm still never gonna use it, but okay. Hey, Volatile Shadows look like it's got like a nice change to it. Every 10 seconds, sorry. Shadow build deals 10% increased damage per skill rank of the imbued skill. Every 10 seconds, your imbued skill hits an enemy. When your imbued skill hits an enemy, you trigger a large explosion, dealing X shadow damage and applying shadow imbuement to each enemy it hits. This is kind of neat. That'd be cool for like a speed farm thing, actually. Bursting venoms. We got a buff here. Poison abuse skills have up to a 35% chance to deploy poison trap while you have poison trap equipped. That's kind of cool, not gonna lie. Of the dark dance, damage bonus is now multiplicative instead of additive. Okay, so now that's gonna work really well with the new Flurry helm. Alright, Eagle Horn. So now penetrating shot bounces off walls and deal 40 to 80% increased damage. Okay, so they removed it every 4th shot. They just made it. All right, but they're talking about making this a range unit as well. What else is there? I'm so confused. Yeah, every shot bounce now. Is it gonna be good finally? I mean, you still need things. You still need places to bounce off of. So like, it's still gonna be bad in like a chunk of content. But I mean, this is not enough to make penetration shot good. No. Like, not at all. No. The next death trap will deal 120% increased damage and rearms. But after activating, this can only happen once every 10 seconds. That's a pretty big nerf to Eyes in the Dark. Okay, Dance Macabre. Okay, now casting mobility substitute skill increases your damage by 30%. For 10. Oh, that is a fantastic change. God, yes. Yo, this right here is like the change of the century. Yeah, it's only 30% now, but it means that I'm not forced to take it for one, or forced to use that board anymore, and two, I just gain the damage just for casting the mobility skill. But the thing about it is, it was so weird is that trick attacks or tricks of the trade was that, right? This used to be tricks of the trades buff almost kind of ish. Just with the mobility skill instead. But yes, big W change. Okay, now the new enemies damaged by your marksman skills take 30% increased damage from your cutthroat and vice versa. Okay, so they basically made it so I don't want to use tricks of the trade now, and I'll just use Dance from Carver in its place for some builds. Enemies damaged by your marksman skill state. Because I mean, it sounds like it's just, it no longer has a duration. It's just the way it used to be actually back in the day. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Each equipped imbuement skill grants 3% maximum resistance and 30% damage for that imbuement's element. Okay, so you can have up to 9% maximum resistance, but you can still you'll have 30% for each imbuement for that imbuement. I don't hate this, but it also means things like, well, actually, cold clip is cold imbuement, so never mind. I guess that's fine still. So just having the bar, yeah. Yo, Sword got some pretty big basic attack damage increase. Can't use on Heartseeker now. You can, because cold imbuement, because cold clip gets cold imbuement because you can use the cold imbuement. Whatchamacallit. Well, I guess you have to equip it though, right? Even if you don't use it, like even if you don't functionally hit the button, you still have to equip. You still have to have it on the bar. But it still should work with cold clip, I assume. I'm gonna test this anyway, just to find out. But cold clip should be able to activate this while it's on your bar. I'm hoping it activates it with it not being on my bar, but I don't know. Because like the same thing with pestilent points too for puncture, right? Same thing, same ordeal. Is it Caltrops always cold and beauty? You pick that passive? No, it's not. Caltrops isn't. Caltrops is not cold and beauty. It has a cold, like it chills, but it's not cold and beauty. Our skill stocks are precious. They are. They are. All right, so it does look like, I guess I went through some of these already. Yeah, so it looks like an overall nerf to just top end damage on a lot of things, on all the classes. I wonder if they're just trying to make it a little more difficult for like some of the bigger builds to be able to reach the higher pit tiers or whatever like that. But then it looks like a blanket nerf to a lot of our key passives. So even some of the weaker builds that we were playing before are going to also get hit with that too. So I don't know, man. The core skills feel like real dead. Basic attack skills feel, I guess, kind of okay-ish. Although the nerfs to the aspects don't really help that situation. This doesn't really help. It's almost like the nerfs to the aspects are almost just as much as the buffs to the core skill itself. So what do we temper now since close damage is capped? I don't know. Damage per Dark Shroud, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I guess we'll see. We'll see how it all works out on the TR, but I was hoping for more key passive like changes, not just numerical caps. Victimize is the only one that got like a slight buff, and even then, like being capped doesn't help. But then I guess honestly, Victimize, even though Victimize is gonna be like terrible still, Victimize is probably the only one where you can now just build for your actual build, and Victimize just becomes the side thing. So I will almost guess that Victimize might be better for Heartseeker probably, because you're gonna want to build for your damage anyway. Well, actually, no. Wait a minute. Because if close quarters combat is capped, then Victimize probably makes more sense. Probably. Especially with the little bit of bump it has, and you're not trying to cap Victimize. Well, I'm gonna say cap Victimize anyway, but it's like you're not 100% building around it anyway. It's almost like you're not really building around a lot of these key passives in general. It looks like momentum didn't get touched though, so momentum is probably going to be like the best by far for melee based things. By far, because it's, you know, the aspect didn't change, so like momentum is like way better than close quarters combat. But still, a lot of our lower tier builds didn't get changed, right? Yeah, and most of them are core skills, so they haven't really bothered. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. On the surface, it looks really weird, I guess. I'm gonna have to like actually get on the PTR to really find out what that pin shot unique actually does, or what it is now, or what did it mean by range, whatever. I'm so confused when they said range play away like that. So I'm assuming the unique, the stats on the pin shot bow is gonna be different. I don't know. Alright, but I gotta go, y'all. But you won't see me tonight because Thursday nights is my night off. But you'll see me tomorrow. I guess we'll talk more about this tomorrow. More so of like probably the boss power, or power. I guess you might as well call them borrowed powers, I guess. Maybe some combinations of what they do or whatever. Yeah, I gotta go. I think that range comment was just misunderstood. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm definitely gonna ask the devs about it though. But yeah, have a good one. Probably not even gonna end up rating out, but yeah, have a good one. And as always, till next time.